Yo, what is good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the movie of What If Deku Had a Titan Crystallization Quirk. Let's go! Now, before this part does start up, I just gotta firstly thank everyone, thanks if you guys have watched the entire series and still watching this movie. Thank you. If you watch through the entire 4 hours or whatever of this movie is, thank you. If I am able to maintain your concentration and your attention through the entire thing, thank you. And yes, yes, that's pretty much it. So I do hope you guys do enjoy this part. If you do, be sure to like, subscribe, all of that jazz. If you have any if you want to see my videos as soon as they come out, hit the notification tab or whatever, and you'll be able to see them as soon as they come out. You'll get recommended or notified or something like that. And yeah, you'll get them immediately and you'll know as soon as I upload. Also, if you guys want to comment anything down, whether it's a what if idea, critique my work or my stories or whatever, just straight up tell me I suck, or I don't know, just want to have a conversation, say g'day, you can do that down in the comment section, and that's that. One more thing, down in the description, all the links, Saint, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Saint down in the description, and all the other music and all the links down in the description. Crown Fiend for his help with this series. Through part of this, I'll put his thumbnail as shown or whatever. But yeah, so that's pretty much that. So I do hope you guys do enjoy this part. Remember, God's awesome, you guys are too, and I hope you guys do really enjoy this movie. Let's go. We start the scenario off with a young boy named Izuku Midoriya, who at the age of 4 years old is now sitting next to his mother in the quirk doctor's office. As the doctor walks in with files in his hands, Izuku and his mother await in anticipation as they prepare themselves for the results, as the doctor sits down and opens up the file. Well, Miss Midoriya, from the description you gave earlier and the limited usage of Izuku's quirk during the testing, we were able to theorize young Midoriya's quirk, and we assume its full capabilities. The name that we thought was fitting for Izuku's quirk is Ice Burst. Your child has the ability to create this completely new element that we named after his quirk, which is what we found, a possibly indestructible crystallized substance, in which he is able to create and manipulate from the molecules around him in any way. From being able to coat his body completely in it, or create weapons and basic structures. And from what we found during the testing, he is also able to melt the ice burst crystal into a liquid-like substance on command, it evaporating nearly immediately after making air contact. From what we found also, the only drawback to this quirk is that young Izuku has to put a tremendous amount of focus into using his quirk, as if he doesn't, it could cause serious harm to both him or others. As Inko looks over to Izuku, she sees him looking at her with sparkles in his eyes and a smile spreading from cheek to cheek. Inko then thanks the doctor as they do their final checkups, and they perform the signings and leave towards Izuku's kindergarten. When they arrive, it being quite late in the evening and the sun setting behind the horizon, all the kids have already left and only a couple of teachers remain lingering about. Izuku and his mother go out the back into the small playground as they see a large pillar made of Izuku's ice burst crystal. Now we flash back to around 5 hours earlier as Deku is playing on the platforms of the playground. Oi, Deku! As Deku turns around to see his childhood friend turned bully Katsuki Bakugo walking up to him with his goons following up behind him. As he walks closer, Deku sees the small explosion sparking off of his hands, with Bakugo staring at him with a grin filled with malice and hurtful intent. When Bakugo sees he's got Deku's attention, he starts rambling on again. I thought I told you that a useless Deku like you had no rights to be on the same playground as me. Ha! Don't tell me you're useless and quirkless and deaf. Ha ha ha! As Deku hears this, he straightens up a bit and looks Katsuki dead in the eyes. Kachan, I know you've got a strong quirk, but the playground is for all kids to play on, not just you. In this scenario, Deku isn't the little wimp that he is in canon and has actually kind of got a backbone and kind of sticks up for himself. And he doesn't really cower to Bakugo. When Bakugo hears this, his smile morphs into a frown and then into a scowl. As he glares at Deku with killing intent, he rushes towards the young boy. I guess I'm gonna have to show you your place again, you worthless Deku! Oh, that murders my throat. Okay. As Bakugo screams this, he reaches Deku and blasts him off the platform, sending him plummeting towards the ground. While Deku is falling, he starts panicking and closes his eyes as this blue crystal-like substance starts forming on Deku's back, shooting towards the ground and pushing him high into the sky. When Deku opens his eyes once more, he sees that he isn't on the ground and realizes his back isn't sore either. When he sits up, he's eye level with the kids on the top tower of the playground, which confuses him, as the kids are looking at him wide-eyed. Deku looks down to see that he isn't on bark, but a crystal-like pillar, which is 4 meters in the air. Seeing this, Deku freaks out at first, like all kids would, but then realizes this is actually kind of cool and sits on the pillar with his legs dangling over the edge, with him kind of just thinking and wobbling his head like all kids did as he looks around the area. About 10 minutes later, Inko rushes in to see the big pillar with a ladder against it and all the kids surrounding something. As she looks closer and gets closer, she sees that Deku is in the middle with all the kids asking about his quirk. One of the teachers sees that Inko has arrived and brings Izuku to her as they then leave for the quirk doctor. On the drive to the quirk doctor, Deku thinks back to his last visit as he and Inko were getting a bit concerned as almost all of the other kids at the kindergarten have gotten their quirks, but Deku has had no signs of having one. They decide to visit the quirk doctor to see if he does have a quirk, and the doctor had explained that Deku does indeed have a quirk, however it just hasn't manifested yet. That was 6 months ago, as all of Deku's classmates thought that Deku was just making it up that he had a quirk and thought that he was just quirkless. And they had all thought that until today. Back to the present, Deku walks up to the crystal pillar. He places a hand on it as it melts away almost instantly, evaporating quickly after that. After this, Deku is given around a week off to get a good control over his quirk so that he can be safe around the other kids and not hurt anyone. So, Over this time, Deku learns to concentrate and get good control over his quirk, not needing to touch the crystal to deform it anymore. He just has to concentrate really hard and think about it kind of melting away and going away. He can also form pillars a bit easier and doesn't need to concentrate as hard when creating kind of small pillars around his height. However, he isn't kind of strong enough or doesn't have a good grasp on his quirk enough to create complex structures yet. We then skip to the next week when Deku goes back to class for the first time after getting his quirk. And when he gets to the classroom, he's swarmed by all of the children in the class as they ask, like, what's his quirk and what does your quirk do? While all the kids kind of are asking this and doing all this, they are blissfully unaware of Bakugo in the back of the class, standing there with a scowl growing on his face and explosions crackling off of his hands. As the kids and teachers give Deku more and more attention and more compliments and just spending a lot more time praising Deku, Bakugo's superiority complex then shows, which has already been put into his mind that he is the best. So everybody else kind of telling him that, or putting all this attention into Deku and not him, really doesn't go well for him, as he runs towards Deku with explosions and his hands getting bigger and bigger. As he's running towards Izuku, the other kids back away in fear, as he blasts a reasonably sized, for his age, explosion towards Deku, expelling smoke all around that part of the classroom. After Bakugo does this, the rest of the class and the rest of the room stands there in shock, holding their breaths as they think that Bakugo has just hurt Deku. As one of the teachers is about to reprimand Bakugo and kind of scold him for his actions, until they see the smoke dissipate and see a crystal cocoon around Deku. As the crystal then melts, kind of liquefying immediately and evaporating afterwards. Seeing this, the entire room is silent and Bakugo is in shock, until he quickly snaps out of it and gets very agitated, as his agitated voice echoes around the room as he screams out and goes for another explosion. However, as Bakugo swings his arm towards Deku once again, readying for an explosion, a crystal pillar slams into the young blonde's chest, throwing him to the back of the room, knocking him unconscious. As everyone looks back to Deku to see a small trail of ice burst leading from his foot to the pillar, until Deku deforms the pillar once again, leaving not a trace left. Once Deku does this, everyone starts swarming him again, praising him even more and just giving him all of this attention for his quirk and how cool he is. But from this, Deku doesn't take it like Bakugo. He doesn't think that he's the coolest. Deku sees the truth with these people and realizes that people only like you if you have a strong or flashy quirk. And he doesn't really like that, since he's spent 6 months of his life being workless. So he can see through all of these people, seeing that they don't really care about him. They just think that he has a cool quirk. So they're only giving him attention for his quirk. So from this time, Deku starts being more standoffish and doesn't like acknowledging people who only care about his quirk and not him personally, as he's kind of quiet and stays at the back of everything. This interaction between him and Bakugo happens more and more kind of often, and happens a few more times, with Bakugo attacking Deku and Deku sending him flying into a wall. However, this hasn't actually been bad for Deku, as this constant use of his quirk helps him to train his control and get more control and skill with his quirk, as he can practice different moves and kind of how to use his quirk on Bakugo as he foolishly runs towards him. We now time skip to when Deku is 14 years old. Over this 10-year time skip, Deku has gotten very popular for his quirk and him being able to beat Bakugo without much effort. And even though he is very popular, he still has a very standoffish personality and only talks to people who he knows is actually genuine about him and not his quirk, which isn't a lot of people, as he just doesn't really like the popularity, but he can't really help it. On a certain day in class, however, Deku is sitting at his desk with his own little fan club surrounding him. Some of the girls even fighting over Deku, seeing who will sit next to him, or arguing whoever sit next to him. Kind of like Sasuke and Ino over Sasuke and Naruto. As this kind of starts happening, the teacher then walks in with a new kid with black hair and red eyes. Alright class, we have a new student. Let him introduce himself. As this happens, the young boy steps up and speaks. Hello, my name is Ichiro Kirishima. It's nice to meet you all. Saying this in a timid and kind of quiet tone. As he says this, one of the students calls out asking what his quirk is, which he replies is a hardening quirk, with his head kind of sinking low. After this, the teacher looks around, seeing the girls still bickering and fighting over who gets to sit next to Deku. Alright, thanks Ichiro. Go sit next down to Midori over there, as Deku raises his hand to signal where he is. As Kirishima walks over and sits next to Deku, Deku then mouths over to the teacher, "Thank you," gesturing towards the still kind of arguing girls. Who then, after Ichiro sits down, realizes that he's sat down in their seat and get kind of mad but can't do much, so they sit somewhere else. Still near Deku, but somewhere else. And yeah. The rest of the class kind of goes on as normal, as kind of their class and everything, and they're taught a bunch of stuff. As lunch rolls around, when Deku goes outside to eat his lunch. When he does this, he sees Bakugo with his goons harassing that new kid, Kirishima. Seeing this, Deku just drops his food tray as a crystal pillar then shoots up, catching it before it could fall and not disrupting anything about the plate or the food, as it just sits there, as everybody who saw that is actually very impressed. As Deku starts walking towards the group with a bunch of students getting ready to watch Bakugo get put down again. Oi, Katsuki! As Deku calls this out, Bakugo, who had Kirishima in a corner, turns around. Ha! What do you want, you arrogant, fame-loving bastard? Oh, wow, Bakugo, that is hurtful. Deku replies with a slight grin and a lot of sarcasm in his voice. Let him go. His face quickly turning serious. Bakugo and his goons turn around with confidence. Ha! Even with your lame crystal quirk, you've got no chance against us. Bakugo states with a menacing smile. Oh, is that so? Deku replies as the three bullies charge at him. When the winged quirked kid prepares to fly up, his foot is then grabbed by something as Ice Burst quickly envelops him in a large cocoon-like ball with only his head sticking out. A large pillar then launches up towards the other kid, slamming him in the jaw and launching him into a wall before he could even think, knocking him out, or kind of knocking him out, more putting him into a serious daze. Then Bakugo jumps up and launches himself towards Deku, sending a large explosion towards Deku, which should have hurt him significantly. Even if he kind of brought up that stupid crystal quirk that he has, his explosion should have blasted straight through it. No problem, and hitting Deku behind it. The smoke quickly dissipates as Bakugo sees a crystal shield on Deku's arm with no damage on it at all. But he can't process fast enough about what happened, as while he's falling, he then gets a fist slammed into his face as Deku backhands Bakugo across the jaw, or across the cheek, with his arm coated in ice burst, forming the brass-like knuckles, forming kind of like brass knuckles. If you want an image in your head, kind of like what the thumbnail has, if you are not listening to this as an ebook and just looking at the kind of video, and if you need a mental image, like what Eren does in Attack on Titan when he kind of fights Reiner and pretty much everybody from season 3 part 2 onwards. So, kind of like that.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
As after Bakugo is sent flying, he's knocked out as Deku deforms all the crystals that he's created as it liquefies and evaporates. As pretty much after this, the winged quirked kind of guy takes Bakugo and the other guy and hurries out of there. As Deku then walks up to Kirishima and outstretches his hand. Hey, you okay? Those idiots didn't rough you up too bad, did they? Deku asks. Kirishima then replies while grabbing Deku's hand. No, I'm fine, thank you. It's Deku pulls him up. Hey, so what's your quirk again? You said it was hardening or something like that, right? Yeah. Kirishima says, lowering his head. Yeah. As Kirishima lowers his head. Hey, why are you lowering your head are you down about your quirk? From the sounds of it, your quirk could be super strong if you trained it hard enough. And even now it sounds pretty cool. Hearing this, Kirishima's eyes widen as they start to swell up with tears. As Deku starts to panic, he's like, hey, just stop crying. What are you doing? Yes, Deku is still antisocial and doesn't really completely know social interaction, as he just doesn't care about anybody else. Or he does care about them, but he doesn't listen to them, like the people around him or anything. And after this interaction, Deku invites Kirishima to train at Dagobah Beach that weekend. At this time, Deku learns what Kirishima's limits are at the moment, and is ready to shatter them into a million pieces. And to do this, Deku creates a reasonably large cage, or kind of ring, as he then spars with kind of Kirishima, as Kirishima is told that he has to keep his body completely hardened the entire time. As while Deku's sparring, where he does have his kind of brass knuckles, like ice burst knuckles on, but as this kind of sparring during the match, Deku will randomly launch small ice burst rocks towards Kirishima. He does this so that Kirishima has to constantly keep his armor up at all times and keep a constant defensive, as this is all like just to keep his defenses up, and so he doesn't have any slight weakness. He also creates a large kind of boulder made of crystal that Kirishima has to consistently beat at. And this helps him get his forearm strength and get his punches to be stronger, and to increase the hardening and the strength of his hardening in his arms and legs. Over this time as well, Deku does teach Kirishima how to kind of do martial arts as well, and not to just throw punches, as Deku has learned martial arts because he's not dumb enough to just use his quirk. So he does teach him kind of the basic kickboxing, boxing, and other kind of martial arts that he does know, so that Kirishima isn't just throwing punches, but he's actually strategic about his hits. Over the time that they're training, Kirishima's hardening quirk has grown exponentially, as he is on the cusp of breaking his limits once again, gaining a new form and reaching a new height with his quirk. A few months later, Deku walks into class with Kirishima, who has dyed his hair at this point to symbolize his change and him being a completely new person. As they kind of walk into class, all the girls start swooning all over them. Mostly kind of Deku, since, have you seen this man in the thumbnail? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, they start swooning all over them, and the reason being, like, I'm not gonna lie, Deku and Kirishima, they aren't slacking. They are shredded. Like, they put the Greek gods to shame. But they're not, like, bulky shredded. I mean, Kirishima's bulky shredded. Deku is more lean shredded, so he's quite cut. Kirishima is quite kind of bulky. As, yeah, kind of at this point as well, Kirishima has also lost his timid nature that he had. As if you're thinking about what timid nature, the season 4 with him being kind of before UA, when he was quite timid and all that, he has none of that anymore. He has now got his canon personality that he has now in the kind of present anime. And yeah, so the two boys then go to sit down as the teacher walks in. So, as third year students, it's time to start thinking seriously about your futures and what you want to do with your lives. I mean, I could pass out some career aptitude tests, but why bother? I know you all want to go the hero track. As the teacher throws all the papers in the air. When he says this, all the students start flashing their quirks, kind of boasting them off, showing them all off, thinking that they're really cool, and yeah, just getting really excited and really pumped. All but 3. Deku, Kirishima, and... Oi, teach! Don't lump me up with these losers. They'd be lucky to be a sidekick to some wannabe D-lister. That hurts your throat. As he says this, Bakugo leaps on his desk and starts spurting on about how he has aced all the mock tests and how he's the greatest and is the best one there and is the only one fit to go to UA High. Yes, Mr. Bakugo, we all know that you're quite exceptional in both academics and physically. Ah, Midoriya and Kirishima, you two are also going to UA. Well, there's no doubt about it in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that Midoriya will definitely get in with his exceptional academics and physical prowess, and your quirk is beyond amazing as well. And Ejiro Kirishima, though your academics aren't really the greatest, your physical prowess is still very high. So good luck to all you 3. After hearing that both Deku and Kirishima are applying to UA as well, Bakugo starts fuming and starts foaming at the mouth as he launches an explosion at Kirishima, only for a hand to go through the smoke and deck him square across the face, sending him flying and knocking him out. As the smoke clears, it's shown that Kirishima has his fist out, with his hand being hardened and having a small bit of blood on his knuckles. I'll take him to the nurse's office. One of the students volunteers. The rest of the class goes by as you would expect, it being kind of boring and not much happening. As pretty much by the end of the day, Deku and Kirishima leave to go home. Hey, Izuku, you keen to train this over? Nah, sorry, Eiji. My mom wants me to go get her the groceries and other errands before I get home. The next 10 months are gonna be hard out anyway, right? Yeah, that's too bad, bro. Oh well. We'll see you in the next few days, though. We'll definitely see you over the next few days. As Kirishima says this, they hit a crossroad. This is my turn. See you later, Mina, bro. Yeah, see you later. After this, and after about 10 minutes of walking, Deku hears a bunch of people in an alleyway as he sees a sludge monster engulfing a student. As he gets closer, he sees the explosions that the kid is producing from his hands. Katsuki Bakugo, you're so useless that you can't even get yourself out of this situation. Well, time to play hero. While thinking this, he looks directly at Bakugo as Bakugo is enveloped in this blue crystal. Once completely enveloped, Deku rips Bakugo out of the villain's grasp as Bakugo has pulled by a string which Deku had strung across the ground and sent it towards Bakugo, and that's how he enveloped Bakugo in the crystal. So Deku then just grabbed the crystal by his foot and pulled him, as well as using his quirk, and he ripped him out of the villain's grasp without anybody really knowing what happened. And just as the villain kind of comprehends what just happened, he leaps towards Bakugo once again until he's surrounded by the same crystal surrounding that boy. As this happens, it completely surrounds him very quickly and puts him in a crystal cocoon. Without another word, Deku kind of just leaves, heading home, not really wanting any fame or credit for what he's done, as he already knows that Bakugo knows what happened. As he starts heading home until he realizes he still has to get the groceries. As he goes and gets groceries and goes home. After this, Deku and Kirishima train for the next 10 months. During their training, Deku comes up with a few kind of different moves, which you will find out about soon. And Kirishima achieves his unbreakable form. But Deku pushes him even further, pushing him to a new level, which Kirishima calls Obsidian Shield, where he looks like his regular hardened mode, not even like his unbreakable form, just his regular hardened mode, but his skin goes to this shiny black color, kind of like Haki, as it turns to this shiny black color, making him near indestructible. During this time, Deku also helped Kirishima study as well, so that he can pass the written portion of exam and not be a vegetable. And Deku, during this time, also didn't slack. As I said before, he does come up with a few more moves and different ways to use his quirk. Finally, the entrance exam rolls around, with Deku and Kirishima walking up to the front gate. As they then walk in to the building and get ready for the written portion of the exam, Deku passed the written portion and written test pretty easily. It wasn't really a challenge, with Kirishima having a little more difficulty, but passing nonetheless. With the written portion being finished and all, everyone is escorted to the auditorium, where President Mike starts explaining the rules and objectives of the practical kind of part of the exam, with there being 1, 2, 3 pointers, 1, 2 and 3 pointer robots. As he is about to talk about another part, Ida then stands up and complains about him not explaining the 4th robot on the sheet. And President Mike then explains that that 4th robot is the 0 pointer and is more of an obstacle than a target, so just avoid it. And as it kind of says in the title, it's 0 points, so it wouldn't really be much use to you to destroy it. After the presentation is finished, they are all sent to different parts of the field. As Deku gets ready, he walks up to the front of the gate, as Ida doesn't actually stop him, because 1, he's not really paying attention, and he doesn't have his eye on Deku since he didn't make that ruckus during the auditorium speech, and also because he can see he's just going to the front, he can see he's not going towards the girl. And when the gates do start to creak open, and they fully open, Deku goes flying as a giant crystal pillar launches him into the city. People are about to complain that this guy's cheating when President Mike yells at them, "Go, go, go! There are no countdowns in a real battle!" My giddy yard, how do these people do these voices? My throat. As Deku is flying towards the ground, he slides down with his quirk, reaching the bottom. As he then slides down to the bottom, he then creates a giant hammer, slamming a 2-pointer across the head, completely obliterating it, then proceeding to destroy 2 other 3-pointers. 3-pointer robots. After finishing them off, he is then attacked by a couple more robots by them shooting at him. As they're from far range, he then forms a crossbow and shoots one of them and then destroys the other 2. Being 100% truthfully honest though, through the entire course of the thing, and that, through the entire kind of test, he could have destroyed, taken out every robot at the start by destroying all of them and spreading out his crystal and taking out every robot in an instant, but that wouldn't really be much fun. Anyway, about 10 minutes had passed as Deku has scored a very high number of points, and he feels that he's destroyed a lot. He kind of lost a bit of count. He knows he's around 100 and something points, but he doesn't really know how much. As he's kind of thinking this, he feels a rumbling and hears screaming a few streets over as he goes to check and sees a giant robot, him realizing it's the 0 pointer. As he kind of sees it, he kind of thinks, that's a bit excessive, don't you think? I mean, it's no problem, but it's a bit excessive, don't you think? Come on! And as he's thinking this and he's looking at it, he hears a cry for help as the robot is about to crush a girl trapped in rubble. As he starts walking towards the robot, it punches... He starts walking towards the robot as it punches down towards the girl, but it doesn't crush her, as she looks up to see a crystal dome around her. When the robot tries to take its fist off the dome, jagged spikes, stab up through its hand, preventing it from moving. As Deku walks up closer, giant spears form behind him. Ice burst, wrathful judgment, as the giant spears shoot towards the giant robot, stabbing into it. The giant spears keep piercing the robot, keep stabbing and stabbing into it as they keep flying and piercing through it, until it falls back completely destroyed. After seeing that the robot has been put down, Deku runs up to the dome, deforming it and removing it completely, and picks up the girl. Hey, you okay? As Deku asks us, Uraraka just looks up at him in amazement. He then kind of ignores this and drops her off to a recovery girl and meets up with Kirishima. So, how'd you do? Asked Deku. Yeah, I did alright. Probably not good as you, though. Hey, don't beat yourself up about it, though. Like, I know for a fact you did... I know for a fact, like, you did great. After about a week, Deku gets a letter in the mail, as the message tells him that he got in and placed first in both the written and physical portions of the exam. Him seeing that he got a 98.72% of the answers correct in the written portion and getting 150 billion points. But that's not all. There was also a hidden portion of the exam being hero points, and Deku got 130 of them from both helping the girl with the robot, destroying the robot, and also kind of helping out other people when they needed it, as he gets a total score of 280 points. After this, Deku and Kirishima meet up, and Kirishima reveals that he got second place with 198 points. As they hang out and kind of celebrate, they go out to like their favorite kind of food places and just hang out and celebrate about them being awesome. After this, like a few days pass as Deku gets his UA uniform on, eats food, and gets ready for school, as he leaves his home and meets up with Kirishima as they go to their first day of UA High. When they get inside, they kind of struggle to find their way to class, but when they do arrive, they see how big the door is. After thinking about why the door is so big, Deku walks up to it and slides it open. You have got to be kidding me. As Deku says this, he and Kirishima look to the other side of the classroom and see a boy with dark blue hair and glasses reprimanding Katsuki Bakugo. Come on, why did he have to be in this class? As the two boys stare Bakugo down, both Ida and Bakugo turn to see the two boys in the doorway, while Bakugo gives them a firm scowl, staring them, kind of giving them back their scowl and stare. Ida does a little speed walk and praises Deku on how you are the better student, and you knew the true meaning of the exam, and you are awesome. And like spouting kind of all this is like, while Ida is spouting all of this kind of nonsense, Deku just looks to Kirishima and just raises an eyebrow, like, thinking, like, what is this guy on? Like, look, man, I knew just as much as you. I just couldn't let an innocent person get hurt during an exam. And just as Ida was about to say something else, Deku feels a tap on his shoulder, in which he turns around to see the girl that he saved behind him. Oh, hi, oh, I didn't actually catch your name. As Deku says this, Uraraka gets red in the face and nervous all of a sudden. Oh, my name? My name's, Ochako Uraraka. As she stutters this, they hear a noise behind them. When the group kind of hears this noise, Uraraka turns around with fear as Deku's just staring at this yellow slug thing, as he then realizes it's a sleeping bag with a guy inside. And as kind of Uraraka turns around, she turns around with like confusion and then fear in her eyes, like, what is going on? Just freaking out, like, what? And then the man in the sleeping bag begins to speak. It took you 8 seconds to shut up. That just won't do. Time is precious. Rational students would understand that. As the man then steps out of his sleeping bag, or unzips the sleeping bag and then kind of begins to step out of it. Hello everyone, I'm Shota Aizawa, your teacher. As he unzips the sleeping bag and pulls something out of it. Whilst he kind of does this, everybody's kind of freaking out, like, what? Our teacher? This guy looks like he's just come out of a hobo place. I don't know what hobo places there are, but he just looks like he came out of like a shelter, homeless shelter or something. There you go, thank you. As then he pulls something out of his as he pulls something out. Alright, he'll pull something out of his sleeping bag. Alright, put these on and meet me outside. As he throws the PE uniform at Izuku. A few minutes later, everyone meets down at the training field. When everyone gets in line, Uraraka kind of questions about orientation. If you want to make the big leagues, you can't go to useless ceremonies. Here at UA, we're not weighed down by tradition. Meaning, I can run this class however I want. As Aizawa says this, he says it with a sinister smile across his face. Alright, Izuku Midoriya, you got first place in the entry exam, apparently. What was your furthest distance softball throw in junior high? Questions Aizawa. 75 meters? Yeah, 75 meters, I think? Yeah, I think. Impressive. Now throw it with your quirk. Anything goes, just don't step outside the circle. While saying this, he passes Deku a softball, passes a softball towards Deku. As Deku kind of starts walking towards the circle, he starts thinking about how he's going to launch it, and as he's kind of walking and thinking about this, all the other students are kind of waiting in anticipation, thinking like, what's he going to do, and what's going to happen, and Kirishima especially, and also Bakugo, they're both kind of thinking, how's he going to get out of this one, because this quirk isn't made for throwing a softball, so, like, how's he going to do this one? But Kirishima is waiting in anticipation as well, as he knows Deku will come up with something. As Deku, he kind of steps into the circle as he kind of starts thinking about, or was thinking how he's going to launch it. He then gets an idea. So, anything goes, right? Anything goes, kid. Just don't step outside the circle. After hearing this, Deku gains a kind of smirk across his face. Good. Alright, you all might want to step back, like, a lot further back. When he says this, Kirishima immediately gets the memo and moves right back, along with kind of Bakugo. He does step back a little bit because he knows that Deku will pull out something if he pulls off that kind of face. As kind of Kirishima, he moves right back, leaning against the building and against the wall. Yeah, you guys should all kind of heed his advice. Kind of hearing this, everyone follows suit kind of quickly, leaning, kind of going against the building as well, or going very close to the building. Once everyone moves, and kind of moves out of kind of range or danger distance, Deku readies himself, getting kind of a good posture, good pitching posture, as he then throws the softball towards the ground as hard as he can, in about a 45-degree angle, so it's angling down towards the ground as he's heaving it as hard as he can. As everyone's seeing this, they're just confused and about to yell at him for getting them all rolled up and making them move way back just for him to do that. But as the ball approaches the ground, a giant crystal pillar shoots towards it at quite high speeds, connecting with the ball and launching it with just blistering speeds and blinding speeds, launching it back towards Deku. As the ball soars towards Deku, he then creates a baseball bat made of his ice burst crystal, bringing it back behind his head and then swinging it forward with perfect form, connecting with the ball. As there's an almost eerie silence that happens in what feels like hours, or not hours but more minutes. It feels like a long time, as the ball shoots towards the sky, breaking the sound barrier and causing a gust of wind to hit all the other students, blowing them back and kind of making the windows just vibrate vigorously. When everybody kind of shakes off what just happened and starts standing back up, their mouths just dropping to the floor as they wait a solid 30 seconds until Aizawa reveals the score. 12,554 meters. When everyone sees this, they all shout this out, and kind of most of them are just shocked. They have their mouths kind of just agape as they start realizing the monster they have in their class. After this show of power, the class starts getting riled up, saying, like, this is gonna be awesome, and this is gonna be so much fun, and all of that, kind of hyping it up. And hearing this, Aizawa gets a devilish smile across his face. Oh, fun, you say? Well, today you'll be completing an 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever comes in last place has none and will be expelled from UA High School on the spot. When this is kind of declared, and when Aizawa declares this, people start freaking out, with Uraraka speaking out. What? That's not fair, we just got here. Fair? And what about natural disasters or power-hungry villains? The world is unfair, and it is our job as heroes to combat that unfairness. After everyone hears this, they get concentrated and ready themselves and getting ready to try their absolute hardest and to pass this test and not come last. As first thing that comes up is the 50-meter dash, as pretty much everything else goes the same as canon. However, Kirishima gets a lot faster score. I'm not sure what he got in canon, but he gets a faster score than in canon. With Deku and Bakugo's race, Bakugo blasts off from the start, getting 4.02 seconds. Deku launches himself with Ice Burst columns, pushing off his feet with each step, pushing him, launching him, and pushing him a bit further and faster than he originally would, getting 4.14 seconds just behind Bakugo. During the grip strength test, Kirishima, he pushes himself and gets 107 kgs with pure grip strength alone. Deku grips it while pushing Ice Burst from his hand and from the knuckles of his hands, kinda against the machine, mimicking grip strength and making it look like he's getting a much stronger score than he originally would, getting 300 kilograms. With the side-to-side lunges, Deku gets 2 pillars on each side of him as they push him side to side with very high speeds, kind of like Mineta with what he did, but instead of hitting him against his ribs, because if Deku did that, he'd probably break his ribs. So he does it against his hands as he then kind of gets pushed along. And during the standing long jump, Deku launches himself with a giant pillar, sending him over the pit. And yeah, he doesn't land on sand, he lands on grass, but he cushions his landing with kind of Ice Burst, stopping him from breaking himself. But the rest of the exams kind of that we don't see, Deku smashes them. Like, he doesn't not do well, he does very well. And at the end of the exam, it is revealed that Deku actually got first place, with Momo coming in second, and Todoroki coming in third, and Kirishima coming in fourth, with Bakugo coming in fifth, etc, etc, until everyone kind of sees the score. And after everyone sees the score, and they kind of look through all the scores until they see last place, and they see that Minoru Mineta is in last place. Alright, Minoru Mineta, pack your things and leave. You're hereby expelled from UA High School. Hearing this, everyone is completely stunned and shocked, especially Yaoyorozu, because it wasn't even just her this time, because even though it was threatened and he did seem pretty serious, some people still had that thought in their minds that it was just to push people to do their best and he wasn't actually going to expel anyone. When Mineta leaves, everyone is kind of just in shock, as they're not really sure what to do, as kind of the rest of the class goes on kind of as normal, as everything's kind of quiet and dull for the rest of the day, as that kind of stays the same until the end of school arrives, as everyone heads home, with Kirishima and Deku kind of hanging out, walking home together. For the next few days of class, they kind of just do normal classes with math, English, science, etc. And that is until 3 days later, while everyone is talking in class, wondering what class they'll have. Wondering what class they'll have next. It kind of, while everyone's thinking this, they hear a booming voice from outside the classroom. I am here! Coming through the door like a hero! Saying this while coming through the door All Might bursts into the room in a bizarre position with his hands against, kind of holding onto the doorframe as he leans into the room. When this happens, everyone gets super hype as the #1 hero in all of Japan is in their classroom teaching them. Wow, so he's really teaching at UA! Kirishima explains. Matt, this is gonna be so cool! I'm just getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Some of the other students comment. As All Might starts to kind of walk up to the podium. Welcome to the most important class at UA High! Think of it as Heroing 101, but the most important part of being a hero is looking good! As All Might explains this, pods come out of the walls with students, with the students' hero costumes in them, in briefcases inside of the pods. As a few minutes later, All Might is standing, quite a few minutes later, All Might is standing in the city as the students start walking, or the prop city, sorry, the kind of prop fake city, as all the students start walking out. They say the clothes make the pros, and I say you are the proof of that. As they walk out, everyone starts admiring each other's costumes, as everyone's like, yo, like, that's such a cool costume, like, yo, like, what's going on? Your quirk is so cool. And some people kind of thinking other costumes are a bit tight or whatever, or some of them may be a bit revealing. As Deku's hero costume is pretty much what you see in the thumbnail, with him having a black kind of leather biker jacket with a fur collar over the top of a grey t-shirt with some black elastic chino styled pants, so kind of like jeans but black pants, and a pair of black beige or beigey brown kind of color and white kind of soles, or the sides of them, skateboarding type, or kind of like shoes. As Kirishima's hero costume it's pretty much his second costume, which is the one with the black sleeves, because that one kind of looking a bit fire. So yeah, it's pretty much that. Even though he could just manipulate it so his arms are constantly black, that would take it out of him and it wouldn't be as cool, and it would exhaust him a lot more. So yeah, once everyone stops marveling at each other's hero costumes, All Might picks out lots, with kind of him picking very different teams than in canon. Now, I'm just going to explain this now. All the teams here, apart from the main ones, were, apart from kind of one of them, of the main kind of fight, are all randomized. So everything's randomized, the fights are randomized apart from Deku's fight, and yeah, the rest of them are kind of randomized as, yeah, I put them on a spin wheel and that's how I did it. So, pretty much, the fights are as follows. Team A, Izuku Midoriya and Denki Kawanari versus Team C, Ichiro Kirishima and Shoto Todoroki. Team I, Yuga Aoyama and Tenya Ida versus Team H, Mina Ashido and Rikido Sato. Team G, Katsuki Bakugo and Hunter Zero versus Team D, Fumikage Tokoyami, Ochako Uraraka and Koji Koda. And Team B, Kyokajiro, Momo Yaoyorozu and Meizo Shoji versus Team F, Toru Hagakure, Suyu Asui and Mashiro Ojiro. The first fight will be Team A versus Team C, with Team A being the villains and Team C being the heroes. All Might explains as the two teams get ready. Deku and Kaminari decide to put the bomb on the 4th out of the 5 floors of the building, and while they're waiting for the match to start, Deku then asks Kaminari, so if we're gonna work together, we should probably know what each other's quirks are, right? Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Well, my quirk is electrification. Sorry. My quirk is electrification. I'll redo that. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Well, my quirk is electrification. I'm able to like generate electricity as well as sort of manipulate it to my will, a little bit. Not really well, but yeah. I'm able to like shoot small electrical bolts of electricity towards an opponent or objects, as well as enhance my body. But if I enhance my body too much though, I can possibly break or sprain some muscles or bones, so I only... Sorry if I whacked my mic, so sorry if you heard that. But I can possibly break my bones, so I can only use it to a smaller percentage. I also can't produce too many volts, or my mind is fried and I go dumb for a little bit. As Kaminari explains this, Kirishima is trying to explain to Todoroki that this won't be a clean sweep. This won't be the clean sweep that he thinks it will be. Listen, man, like, I know you're strong or whatever, but Izuku Midoriya is way stronger than you're giving him credit for. No matter how strong he is, I will beat him. He just creates crystals, right? He can't spread it as far as my ice. He can't spread it across this building. We'll win as soon as I get inside the building. Todoroki boasts, in which Kirishima heavily doubts. Well, my quirk is Ice Burst. It allows me to produce and manipulate, to kind of an extent, one of the strongest minerals on Earth, which is actually something only I can create. It's not a natural thing, only I create it, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, so I can only manipulate it to an extent, and yeah, but I can form it into weapons and trap objects into it and form it pretty much to my will, pretty much. And I can create structures like these pillars and all of that, and yeah, so that's pretty cool. And the best thing about it for us in this situation is it's conductive. Deku explains, the hero team may enter the building. All Might explains over the comms. As soon as he says this, Deku and Kaminari hears this strange sound. It's like, they don't even know how to explain it. It's like glass hitting the ground and shattering, or shattered glass kind of sprinkling, or ice. As Deku then realizes as ice enters the room, but before it can reach them, however, Deku creates a wall around just in front of the entire room, stopping the ice in its tracks. And for a few seconds later, Deku then deforms the wall once he knows that the ice has stopped. Damn, he almost got us. Kaminari explains, or exclaims, no need to worry. We'll continue with the plan, Deku comments. Don't worry about following. We've already won, Todoroki confidently explains. Todoroki, bro, I know you're confident in your abilities, man, but Izuku is just built different. He is just built different. There is no way he is out of the fight yet. He will fight. He will find some way. Suit yourself. As Todoroki traverses the building, going from room to room, then until he reaches kind of the stairs for the second floor. As he then gets up and starts walking up the second floor, he turns a corner to see a figure in front of them. But before they could think, the figure then rapidly approaches. As it approaches quite fast, as they don't really have any time to think, as just as they get into a meter range, before the kind of figure gets into a meter range of the heroes, they see that it's blue. What? Then the figure explodes, shooting electricity and ice burst everywhere and shocking, literally, the two young heroes. But they aren't out of the count just yet. What the hell was that? Todoroki exclaims. Flashback to while Deku was kind of walking up the building. He creates ice burst sculptures of kind of people in random places around the building to throw off the opponents and to throw at them if need be. Like, literally just yeet at them. He knows Kirishima will be able to handle it, but he doesn't really know about Todoroki, but he knows Kirishima can handle it. But yeah, so it can be either to throw off the opponent or throw at them if need be, which he kinda just did. As if we flash back forward to 1 minute before the explosion, as Todoroki walked up to the second floor, as he then walks up and steps on a crystal, breaking it. Breaking it, sending a message kind of back to Deku, as he then realizes his trap has been triggered. Okay, someone's triggered a trap. Right, wait. Okay, and now. Alright, get ready for 50,000 volts! As Kaminari kind of screams this, he puts his hands down, gripping onto an ice burst orb that Deku has made. He sends electricity pulsing through it, as the orb then sends this electricity through kind of these veins of ice burst, kind of down through the door and down the building. While Kaminari is generating and kind of sending this electricity through the ice burst, Deku is manipulating the veins so it only reaches the enemy and doesn't take any other path. As the electricity then reaches the second floor, hitting the kind of sculpture, it then shoots down the hall at blistering speeds, or not blistering speeds, but quick speeds, and electrocuting the two heroes and sending ice burst shattering towards them. Now we go back to kind of the present time. It seems I may have to put more effort into this than I thought, exclaims Todoroki as he staggers to his feet. Once he gets up, he sees Kirishima leaving his obsidian shield form as they both look at each other. I told you, dude. Midoriya isn't one to be underestimated, Kirishima repeats. Understanding the situation a bit more and realizing his mistake, Todoroki nods in compliance as they cautiously traverse the building. While going higher up the building, they find a few more traps around, some being more statues that charge at them and explode, others being electrical kind of enveloped spikes that shoot at them, as well as some other minor traps as well. When they arrive at the fourth floor, they see another crystal statue in the doorway. They ready themselves for another trap as they ready for it to charge at them as it rapidly approaches. Kirishima puts his obsidian shield armor on his arms, while Todoroki prepares to put up an ice wall to freeze and stop the statue where it is. As the statue rapidly approaches, it reaches about 3 meters away when it suddenly shoots its hand up and a large wave of crystal spikes shoot towards the two heroes in training. The two dodge the attack just in time as they then see the crystal melt and 2 glowing green eyes glare through the steam. Very impressive, heroes. I expected nothing less than students from UA High. The two boys then get a closer look and see it's Izuku in crystal-like armor. Damn, I should have expected you to pull something like this, Midoriya, exclaims Ijiro. You should have, but did not. A foolish error on your part. Another error is that you expected me to come here alone, comments Deku. Before the two can react, they see a flash of yellow lightning before a punch collides with Ichiro's cheek, slamming him into the wall far behind them down the hall. When Todoroki looks back, he sees Kaminari standing there with his hand outstretched and electricity coursing around him. Todoroki then snaps out of it as a crystal spike shoots towards him, forcing him to dodge as another punch from Kaminari flies towards him, making him shoot a wave of ice at them, temporarily freezing Kaminari to the wall. He then turns around just in time to dodge a crystal pillar before launching a barrage of ice towards Deku, who covers himself in a cocoon-like kind of orb before it's frozen over. After a few seconds, Izuku then shatters the orb, or the dome around him, as well as the ice covering it. As Deku gets a clear line of vision towards Todoroki, he sees ice fragments blast away from the wall, as Kaminari breaks out of the ice and launches himself, pushing off the wall and going flying towards Shoto. Kaminari throws a punch towards his chest as he then connects, and causing a small shockwave and forcing dust and debris in the air, making it a little bit harder to see. Before he processes it, Kaminari is socked across the face by a black fist, sending him into the ground. After the dust clears, it is revealed that Kirishima is standing in front of Todoroki with his chest and arms coated in his obsidian shield form. While stammering to his feet, Kaminari questions to them, how? I was sure to put enough power into that punch to knock you out. Hearing this, Kirishima smirks. Just before you connected, I hardened my fist as much as I hardened my face as much as I could. It could only get to my second stage, or his unbreakable form, out of the thing. Just breaking the story for a sec. His second form is unbreakable form, which still dazed me, but it was enough to brunt most of the impact. After the explanation, Kaminari launches himself towards him, but is quickly halted by a barrage of ice from Todoroki. Whilst this occurs, Deku charges towards Kirishima, turning his fists into brass knuckles before punching him square in the face. Taking the hit head on as the punch hits him square in the forehead, Kirishima then sends his own punch hurling towards Izuku, which he slightly dodges, as they then send simultaneous punches that both reach their mark and hitting each other across the face, forcing each other back just a bit. Taking the punch like an absolute champ, Deku then steps back and sends a large crystal spike shooting towards Kirishima, striking him straight in the abdomen or the solar plexus. If you don't know where that is, it's pretty much where the sternum, if you know what a sternum is, it's like pretty much your chest, and then like you got your ribs or whatever, and then there's the abs. It's like just where the bone meets the kind of muscle. Just if you didn't know. But yeah, striking him straight in the abdomen. Covered by his obsidian shield form, Kirishima is then pushed and slammed into the ceiling by the spike. It not piercing him, but pinning him. Once pinning him to the roof, Deku then surrounds Kirishima in Ice Burst Crystal, trapping him. After taking care of Kirishima, Deku then sees Kaminari send a bolt of electricity towards Todoroki, hitting him, striking him straight in the chest, and sending him hurling into the wall. Deku quickly trapping Todoroki against the wall with his Ice Burst Crystal after that. "Villain team wins!" exclaims All Might. Hearing the outcome of the match was decided, Deku releases their two former opponents, while Todoroki drops kinda gracefully, while Kirishima slams face first into the floor, cracking it and just putting an indent of himself in the floor. Oh, yo, you good? Asked Deku, kind of just realizing the faults in his release. Yup, replies Kirishima, putting a weak thumbs up. Once everyone got back to the control room, All Might asks the class who the MVP of the match was, with Momo explaining how the different faults and stuff of everybody's matches and all that, or all the fights and that, but everybody kind of collectively agrees that Deku was the MVP of the match. After this decision and the rest of the discussions go on, the rest of the fights go on and continue. The conclusions of the fights going as follows, with Team I, which consists of Yuga Aoyama and Tenya Ida, versus Team H, Mina Ashido and Rikido Sato, ending in a very close match, but unfortunately for Team H, Team I does take the win, with Aoyama putting them off with his laser, but also Ida his speed overwhelming them. But Mina does quickly overwhelm Aoyama, as she did remember with the original exam, and the quirk exam, how Aoyama said that he can't use his laser too many times or it starts to hurt him. With the second fight, Team G, which is Katsuki Bakugo and Hunter Zero, versus Team D, Fumikage Tokoyami, Ochako Uraraka, and Koji Koda, and the fight ending with Team G taking the victory, with Bakugo pretty much doing most of it. Like, Tokoyami was a good fight since it was quite dark, but Bakugo could quickly negate that with his explosions, therefore weakening Dark Shadow and taking the victory, as Koda doesn't really have a fighting ability, and neither does Ochako, and she also doesn't have that fighting experience from Gunhead. So unfortunately for Team D, Team G takes the win for that fight. For the next and final fight, which is Team B, consisting of Kyokujiro, Momo Yoyorozu, and Meizo Shoji, versus Team F, which is Toru Hagakure, Tsuyu Asui, and Mashiro Ojiro, which ends with Team B taking the win. Another close match, but unfortunately Hagakure's invisibility couldn't do much since both Jiro and Shoji both had abilities to negate that, with them both, or Jiro being able to hear sound waves and Shoji just being able to hear her in general and smell and possibly see, since he's got 1,000 eyes or whatever. So yeah, and Asui is doing a good does do kind of well, since she has very strong and good martial arts, as well as Ojiro, but they just aren't enough against those three. During these fights, Deku notes in his mind a few of the students of interest that he kind of finds quite interesting, funny enough. A few of them being Fumikage Tokiyami with his Dark Shadow, and how their kind of dynamic works. How Dark Shadow is kind of a sentient stand, or like, sentient stand. Sentient quirk. Yeah, a sentient quirk, and yeah, how he's pretty much got a mind of his own, which is strange, but seems pretty cool. With the next one being Momo Yaoyorozu and her creation quirk, which could possibly be endless and limitless as long as she knows everything about it, so it could work very well. And the last one being Meizo Shoji with his multiple kind of duple arms, and how that works, and how he's got regeneration on top of it, which is kind of weird. And the final one being Mina Ashido with both her kind of mutation quirk and her acid. So there, that could very much work like that. So those are his kind of students of interest that do catch his eye. He also does know about like Bakugo and Todoroki. He does kind of think is pretty cool as well, but he fought against them. So the students of interest that he didn't fight against are those four. He already knows about Bakugo, and he can wipe the floor with him easily. After class, everyone leaves for the weekend, with Kaminari being called over by some weird blonde skinny dude, which Deku and Kirishima thinks pretty weird. They haven't actually seen him. He doesn't look like a hero, and all the teachers here seem to be heroes, so it's a bit weird that this weird skinny dude wants to talk to him. But oh well. As after this, Deku and Kirishima head back to the train station. Hey, Kirishima! As they turn around, they see a girl with pink skin and hair running towards them. Ashido? Questions Ejiro. Ha! I knew I recognized you from somewhere. You changed your hair. And you're Midoriya, right? You guys' fight was intense! Responds Mina. Oh, yeah, your fight was pretty cool as well. And your acid looks like a very useful quirk. Deku replies, as they start walking again. Oh, thanks, she says quietly, a slight blush covering her cheeks, but it masked by her pink skin. But I was wondering, firstly, Kirishima, how did your quirk change so much? Like, I knew your quirk was hardening and all that, and you're able to be superly defensive, but that black skin really took me off guard. And like, how does that work? I thought your skin just got hardened, didn't completely change. And secondly, Midoriya, what is your quirk and how is it so cool? Mina asks enthusiastically. Well, replies Kirishima, to answer your first question, after I left Mastafu Private, I went to Eldara Junior High, where Izuku and Bakugo went. There I met Izuku, and he helped me train my quirk to the absolute limit, which helped me get my kind of obsidian shield forming, it really improves my skills. And at the moment, I'm trying to get even further, because I know there is a kind of ability, and I know there's a limit that I need to reach further. So, yeah. And to answer your second question, Deku cuts in. My quirk is called Ice Burst. It allows me to form and manipulate certain types of a certain type of rare and near indestructible crystal. Oh, that's so cool. Well, to properly introduce myself, my name is Mina Ashido, and my quirk is called Acid. It allows me to excrete acid from pretty much any part of my body. I also obviously have a mutation quirk as well. I don't think it's normal to have pink skin or horns, she jokes, lowering her head slightly. Deku taking notice of this. Well, in my opinion, mutation quirks are awesome. No matter what anybody else says or thinks, they're so cool. There could be a dog person, or a person who can breathe underwater with sharks, or also with her frog abilities, it gives her enhanced strength and all that. And with you, you straight up look like an alien. It's dope. It's slightly taken aback by this comment. Mina just nods in surprise. Whoa, Izuku! I think you're the first person I've seen leave her speechless like this. Kirishima jokingly says. Hey, shut up, replies Mina, lightly punching him in the shoulder as they both giggle. While they continue to talk for a bit until they arrive at the station and seeing their train pretty much about to leave the station. Well, our train's here. Nice meeting you properly, though, Ashido. We'll see you next week on Monday, Deku says, ending the conversation. Yeah, see you guys next Monday, waves Mina, as the rest of the way home goes pretty routine, with Deku and Kirishima splitting ways to go home and getting rest for the weekend. The next day, Deku is walking to a cafe to grab something to eat or drink, just to snack on. Or just to snack on. When he gets there, he looks up at the menu and orders something. As he goes to sit at a table, he hears a ruckus and looks over to another kind of table and set of seats where a couple of customers are harassing one of the waitresses. He looks closer and sees it's Ashido, so he approaches the situation. As he gets closer, one of the guys, who's clearly intoxicated, goes to slap her in the rear when his hand is caught and stopped. Ugh, if you can't even have the decency to leave a young woman alone and touch her without a consent, I don't think this is the establishment for you lads. One of the other lads goes to punch Deku in the face, but before anyone could really react, Deku pulls the man whose wrist he is still gripping up in front of him to take the punch, knocking the man out immediately. He then forms crystals around the men's feet and drags them out of the building. And yeah, they aren't really allowed back in. Thanks, Midoriya. I really appreciate it, says Mina. No need to worry about it, Ashido. And please, Izuku's fine, responds Izuku. Oh, okay, Izuku. Say, what time are you finishing up here? He asks. In around 15 minutes? Alright, You wanna hang out after then? Oh, sure. You'll have to give me a couple minutes to change, though. Yeah, that's totally fine. But yeah. But I'll have my iced latte and muffin now, thanks. Deku demands with a smirk. Yes, sir, that'll be with you in a short moment. Mina responds, giggling. After about 20 minutes, Deku finishes his drink and food as Mina walks out. As they walk around the town centre for a bit as they go into different shops, Deku offering to pay for pretty much everything, and yeah, he pays for everything, as, yeah, since Mans does have a job. After around 4 hours of going to different shops and going to the mall, they end up walking to a park as they go down to sit down on a seat, looking over a small pond. Wow, the water's so calm, comments Mina. Hey, thanks for taking me out this afternoon, Izuku. I really appreciate it. Look, no one really lets me go around to different places and buy a bunch of things, which I may or may not use, so, yeah, so, really, thank you, as she hugs him. Hey, it's no problem at all, like, I have a reasonably high-paying job, so, it's all good. After this, they stay there looking over the pond and talking for a few more minutes before Deku takes Mina back to her house, in which they say goodbye and Deku heads home. If you're wondering why he has kind of so much money and can let Mina spend a bunch of stuff which she may or may not use, Deku is the only source of Ice Burst Crystal, which turns out to be an extremely valuable resource. So, long story short, man's getting paid a lot just to produce a small amount of his quirk, as he kind of sends it to either research labs or museums or other places. But yeah. Or just like rich people wanting to have a shiny crystal. But yeah, the rest of the weekend is pretty tame though, as Izuku and Kirishima go and train on the Sunday as they get ready for the next day. The next day, everyone goes back to class when Aizawa walks in and explains, "Right now, you have to make one of the most important decisions of your time here at UA." As he says this, everybody starts to get on guard, wondering and starting to freak out, wondering what they're gonna have to do. Are they gonna get expelled again? "You have to pick the class president." After hearing this, everybody goes crazy and super hype, saying they want to become class president or they want to become class president. Everybody bickering and arguing about who gets to become class president. It's all mayhem until Ida comes up with the idea of the votes. So, in which kind of Deku gets class president as normal, with Momo getting vice. So, truth be told, this isn't really my style. So, yeah, I'm passing my role onto Ida since he kind of came up with the idea and he seems to be suited enough. After hearing this, kind of nobody really has an objection to this. After class ends, it's lunch break as Deku, Kirishima, Mina, and Kaminari are chilling at a table. Pretty much, Deku has just taken the role of Bakugo, except Bakugo's still got Zero. Poor guy, all alone. They're kind of all at a table, chilling. This is until the alarm goes off, blaring and stating that a villain has intruded on you, a property. Which everything is pretty much resolved the same, with Ida going along being like, yo, it's just the press, we all goods. A few days later, the class is all seated in class as Aizawa walks in once again. Alright everyone, we're going to an off-campus location, so get your hero costumes on and get onto the bus. After the order, everybody goes and kind of goes to the changing rooms, then going to the bus shortly after. Ida tries to get everyone onto the bus in an orderly and professional fashion and manner, but that fails since the seating plan kinda is whack and not what he wanted. So everybody sits at random, with Deku ending up sitting next to Ejiro and Mina. Or Kirishima and Mina, if you don't know Ejiro. Yeah. So, yeah. Somadoria. What? I can't take that seriously, I'm sorry. Alright. Somadoria, what's exactly your quirk? Suyu asks. Well, to make it short, I can create and manipulate near indestructible crystals, in which I can melt and evaporate on command. So, yeah. But being honest, saying too much could give me away, as we do have the sports festival coming up very soon. Deku replies. After hearing this, everybody does realize this and kind of agrees, as the rest of the bus ride goes on very smoothly, with everybody just kind of getting to know each other. As they arrive at a large building shortly after, where they step off the bus and are greeted by the space rescue hero 13. Welcome, students, to the USJ, she states, where the rest of the joke goes on as normal. I don't know the joke, I'm not going to look and find out the joke, it's just a joke. So, yeah. Once all that is finished, the class walks in as 13 explains what they'll be doing and how they'll be doing rescue training. Quirks are good to have in our society, but they can also be very dangerous. Hey, Mr. Aizawa, 13, are we fighting fake villains as well? Questions Kirishima. Fake villains? What the? Questions Aizawa, until he looks down and sees dozens of villains down in the middle of the building. No, those aren't fake villains, those are real villains. Stay back, get behind us. He commands. 13, protect the kids, as Aizawa jumps down into the horde of villains and beating them down. As this happens, 13 then turns to the students and says, the fastest one, get out of here and warn UA. Hello everyone, we are the League of Villains, and we have come here to this fine establishment to rid this world of the symbol of peace, All Might. As this is said, a mysterious purple smoke-like mist, or something like that, blocks and starts to envelop and block the way of the door, with some yellow glowing parts of it, assuming to be representing the eyes of the villain, glaring at all of the heroes in training. After this announcement and declaration, 13 prepares to use her quirk and suck up the villain with her black hole quirk. However, Bakugo and Kaminari this time jump in to attack, with Bakugo jumping in and exploding the villain, while Kaminari jumping in and punching it, disrupting 13's attack. And like in canon, Bakugo does absolutely nothing, with him just jumping straight through it. However, when Kaminari throws a punch and kind of leaps through the villain, he lets off an electrical discharge, shocking the villain temporarily Quickly recovering, however, Kurogiri then sends probably about a third of the students around the USJ, but just as the smoke surrounds the students, enveloping them, Deku releases his crystal, Titan crystal quirk, trapping and holding most of the students to the ground and stopping them from being sucked into the portals. However, this didn't work for all of the heroes in training, and Deku was also not one of these people, with only probably about 2/3 of the heroes in training and Kurogiri being stuck to the floor. Deku not being one of these people, in which he starts feeling himself falling before seeing solid rock beneath him as he starts plummeting to the ground. Thinking quickly, he cushions his fall with his Titan crystal, sending a pillar up to or down towards the ground, as he then connects and cushions his fall with a escalator elevator kind of system. As he lands on the ground, he sees another person falling. When he sees this, he immediately catches them in a crystal cushion cube thing, as they then slowly descend to the floor. He then disperses all the crystals around the USJ, freeing all the heroes in training and Kurogiri over by the entrance, and seeing that it's Mina that is with him that he cushioned the fall. Ashura? Damn, I thought I stopped everyone from being portaled. It's fine, Midoriya. Our class is strong. They'll get through this, she replies, trying to encourage him. Well, before we worry about them, why don't we deal with these jokers? As he gestures towards the villains. Before any of the approaching villains can really react, every villain in the mountain zone which they are at is immediately frozen over by crystal, trapping them. So, good people, I truthfully do not appreciate you interrupting our school rescue exercise. Oh well, I guess they can rescue you after my friend here melts the flesh off of your bones and sends you to the ICU. Deku saying this with a devilish and sinister smile across his face. Mina is about to object with this, before he then shoots her a certain glance, kinda telling her to go along with it without telling her to go along with it. You stupid kids! Shouts one of the trapped villains. Do you really expect us to believe that you hero wannabes are gonna try and kill us? Ha! What a joke. After Deku hears this, after Deku gives her the signal, Mina walks up to the mouthy villain and starts dripping acid from her hands, placing one of them on the crystal as it starts melting away, putting on a sinister smile, freaking the villain out to no end. Just tell us what we want to know, and this won't happen to you, Deku assures them. Down at the destroyed city, Bakugo and Kaminari make quick work of the villains, not really putting much effort in at all. Over by the cliff, Kirishima is pretty much the shield as Momo and Jiro attack, and Todoroki, who is over by the boat area, just freezes the boat and the water with all the villains along with it. Sorry. Up at the entrance, Ida pretty much left immediately, with 13 getting hurt the same as normal, with her getting her back sucked out by her own quirk. But more of the students hold off Kurogiri, stalling him for a longer amount of time. When Deku arrives at the plaza of the building, he sees absolute mayhem, with Aizawa on the ground bleeding and broken, while Todoroki and Kaminari were fending off both the Nomu and Shigaraki. When he looks to his right, Deku then sees Bakugo with the warp villain at his mercy, his hand on this metal piece that seems to be holding the smoke together and setting off small crackling explosions, threatening to blow it apart if it moves. Looking back at the Nomu, he sees that it is much faster than Kaminari, who is trying to hold it off. So Deku, quickly thinking, freezes Shigaraki and the Nomu over, sending his over with his crystal, and starts to stab into the Nomu with small spikes. If you're wanting an image, kind of think of, if you know what an Iron Maiden kind of torture machine that people used in the medieval days, like that kind of torture device. If you know what that is, then that's good. If you don't, if you've seen Despicable Me, the thing where it's like a weird kind of closet, but if you go inside it, it closes, it spikes you and stabs you, you die. Yeah, that's pretty much that. So, yeah, that's not really helpful. The reason for this being is that he distinguished this monster as being the most dangerous on the battlefield, or on the field, and spikes stabbing into your muscles and into your bone, probably breaking them as well, should probably be enough to incapacitate a normal person. Like, you wouldn't normally be able to really move, or be kind of thinking straight, or be able to attack, especially after that happening. And Deku thinking it just has a strength and speed enhancement, that would be a good assumption. Unfortunately for Deku, this creature was not normal, as about 15 seconds after Deku trapped the two, he hears a cracking, and as he turns around to see the crystal around the Nomu starting to crack. What? No, that's impossible, questions Deku in complete shock, as the crystal around the Nomu shatters, exploding everywhere. When he sees this, Shigaraki starts laughing. That was horrible. You can't defeat my Nomu. It's got shock absorption and regeneration. It was made to defeat All Might. What do you think your puny crystal quirk can do to it? The best thing about it, it's not even alive, so you can't hurt it. I can't laugh. I am sorry. Ha ha ha, he laughs. Hearing this, Deku then smiles, which kind of confuses everyone. Oh, so it's not alive, he replies, which confuses everyone even further. Well, that makes this much easier, as he sends a minefield of spikes stabbing into the Nomu's feet as it gets caught, as, yeah, kind of stabbing into it. He then, quickly after, a large barbed spike shoots up from underneath the Nomu, stabbing it straight in, right in the gut, and sending it high into the air. As it's stuck there, with a large spike going straight through its abdomen, all the Nomu can do is just hang there. It can't even break through the crystal, and it can't push itself off because, well, there's spikes stabbing into it, so it's gripping onto the Nomu's flesh and restraining it, stopping it from moving. As everyone kind of sees this, a strange energy starts forming around Deku's hand, which suddenly turns into a gigantic hammer. Mr. Nomu person, due to your crimes against UA High School and not being alive in the first place, I sentence you to death and now put you at rest. I would say, do you have any last words, but it seems that you can't speak, so, but that kinda sucks. As he says this, Deku swings the large hammer down, obliterating the Nomu's head immediately, killing it. Everyone is in complete disbelief as All Might busts through the door. "No need to fear, students. Why? Because I am..." Oh, it seems you sorted it all out already. Good job. Seeing everything was cleared up and sorted, all the heroes start hoarding the villains, as when they go back for Shigaraki and Kurogiri, they're gone. While this all happens, Deku explains to all the heroes and the police and all that of what he learned and how they, from the heroes or from the villains and all that, that they kind of were brought and promised here and kind of came here to defeat and kill All Might, and that was what that monster was built for, and that's what that crazy hand guy was saying as well. After seeing that Shigaraki and Kurogiri are gone, everyone kind of is kicking themselves for a short minute. And soon after, the heroes and the students then go back to UA with surprisingly no injuries, apart from Aizawa, who still got kind of slapped and put on the dirt. Sucks for Aizawa. I love Aizawa, but that was kind of there wasn't much we could do. Aizawa still got slapped. The students are given a few days to recover from the incident. On the second day, Deku goes to his bed and just lays there as he flicks a text to someone, as he then goes to meet up at the cafe a few hours later. "Hey, Izuku!" When Deku turns around, he sees Mina walk up to him. "Hey, thanks for asking me out here. I was just thinking though, why just after a life-threatening crisis?" she asks. "I kinda just wanted to take my mind off things, really, and this was, in my mind, a good way to do that," he replies, his face slightly red. "Oh, I didn't even think of that." After that little talk and talking for a little bit longer, they then go to multiple little shops, as he lets Mina go on another shopping spree as she buys a bunch of different stuff. They get spoiled, that's what I was thinking. During this little date, they get to know each other a bit more. They hang out for pretty much the entire day, with Mina saying thanks and giving Deku a kiss on the cheek, as he then takes her home and goes home himself. A couple of days pass as the class then arrives back to class, with Mr. Aizawa rocking up in bandages, weirding out but getting the class hype and excited that their teacher is an absolute badass. He then starts explaining. "Alright, I know you've faced villains and kind of a life-threatening experience, but your fight isn't over yet. The UA Sports Festival is coming up. Thousands of heroes and agencies around the world, or not around the world, but around Japan, will be watching you, and you need to prepare." Hearing this, the students get quite nervous, but also really excited, and go out to lunch. When they open the door, they see a bunch of students blocking the door, and blocking the hallway, with Bakugo then explaining to them that they're here to scout out the competition, and to pretty much piss off. As after this, everyone kind of gets mad, all the other students, with pretty much the same exchange happening. However, Deku does literally nothing. He stays in the back of the class just laying there, having the time of his life, watching a bunch of people get really mad at each other for literally no reason. After this, and after kind of leaving the class and being able to let out of the class, Deku, Mina, and Kirishima are sitting at a table eating lunch, when Deku gets this feeling, kind of like a spidey sense, from behind him. He then hardens this side in the back of his head and forces a pillar up as an elbow connects with it. The pillar then pushes the elbow away before Deku forms a small barricade kind of down by the floor, tripping the student as he falls flat on his face. Oh, you okay there, man? That seemed to be a hard fall. Getting angry, the blonde-haired boy then storms off with an orange-haired girl quickly apologizing for his actions and then chasing after him, getting ready to put their hands on him and beat his ass. The day then quickly passes as Deku and the rest of the students go home and prepare themselves for the next 2 weeks of pure, hard and enduring training. Over this time, Deku has trained with both Kirishima and Mina most of the time, with him also building up his stamina and his endurance and stamina so he can use his power more efficiently and a lot longer. He and Mina have also kind of gone on a few more dates and gotten a lot closer as well. On the day of the sports festival, Deku and the rest of his class are waiting in the room, or in the waiting room, where he and Mina are sitting kind of by a wall, kind of by a locker, and talking. Hey, Mina, you know, we've gotten a lot close, we've gone out a lot these past couple weeks and grown a lot closer, I think. So, I was wondering, do you want to be my Midoriya? Todoroki cuts in, not really understanding the weight of this conversation. I know you have this freakish quirk or whatever that pretty much this unbreakable crystal or whatever. But no matter what, I will beat you with just my ice. Consider this a declaration of war, declares Todoroki, silencing the room. Hey, don't leave me out of this, icy heart! I'll murder you, both of you! Screams Bakugo, turning the entire room into a massive argument of war, and who's gonna win, etc, etc. Deku then turns to Kirishima, kinda shrugging his shoulders as Kirishima then nods to him, with Deku nodding back as they both kinda declare war without declaring war. He then turns to Mina as she feels a tap on his shoulder as he turns to Mina as she whispers in his ear. Depends on whether you win the sports festival. Kissing him on the cheek, kinda making him go red in the face. Oh, now that's a source of motivation. You're all going down! Deku declares, immediately kinda catching the kind of attention of the entire room. However, immediately after this, they are called out as Deku leads the class to the stadium. Once all the classes are out in the stadium, Midnight then gets on the microphone. Alright, hello everybody! Would the first place student in the entrance exam come up to give a speech? Everyone then looks at Deku, who walks up onto the stage and takes the microphone from Midnight's hands. Look, I'm not great at motivational speeches, so I'm just gonna say this. I'm aiming for the top, so I expect all of you to do the same. Good luck. Pretty much dropping the mic afterwards and walking out. Or walking down the stage. After hearing these words, everyone is quiet until the crowd and students erupt in applause and excitement. So hyped for this festival, as a spin wheel is brought up and Midnight spins it. And the first competition of the sports festival will be an obstacle race. Once everyone hears this announcement, they are hyped. Well, most of them are, as they prepare themselves for the race. As Deku prepares himself, he looks around at the competition as he mentally points out people that could possibly pose a challenge. So he's looking at Todoroki, Kaminari, Mineta, Bakugo, I guess, and Kirishima, as kind of they lock eyes and give each other one last nod before focusing. If you guys are hearing my Discord, sorry, but yeah. Anyway, he then looks in front as he sees Mina, her then looking back at him before giving him a wink and sticking out her tongue, kind of taunting him. Before Midnight starts the countdown, before Midnight starts the countdown. And 3, 2, 1, go! Before anyone could react, the entire hall gets filled with ice. Deku, seeing the floor in the obstacle, he launches himself over the stadium and slides back down on Crystal, taking the lead. Todoroki, seeing this, scowls at himself as he tries to catch up, as they both hear an explosion behind them. "Don't you leave me behind, you bastards!" They both look back to see Bakugo flying through the sky using his explosions. But as he's flying, Bakugo feels this wind pressure from below him before getting blown off balance and plummeting to the ground, hitting the ground hard. As he looks up, he sees a bolt of yellow lightning blitzing in front of him. When Deku and Shoto hear Bakugo go down, they see a bolt of lightning gain on them quickly, making them start to slide on their respective quirks, Deku using his crystal, Shoto using his ice, as they slide speeding up drastically. As Deku's sliding, he sees the robots in front of him. Seeing the behemoth that is the zero-pointer robot again, he decides to mess with Kaminari and a few other students. As the robot swings its giant hand down towards Deku, trying to crush him, he launches a giant crystal glacier towards it, stopping it in its tracks. When he goes past the robot, he then disfigures the crystal around the robot's foot, causing it to lose balance and fall over, stopping everyone behind him in their tracks for a short while. Other robots try attacking him, but any that get relatively close get a spike stabbed through their abdomen or just get destroyed by a pillar or a crystal in general. Not long after, Deku then arrives at the Fall, where Deku creates a large bridge across. But when he gets halfway, he disfigures the crystal, causing anyone that tries to kind of go across the bridge immediately regret the decision, as they have to jump off and try and make it onto a pillar and find their own way across the giant pit. Once Deku makes it across the entire obstacle, he looks back to see Todoroki is not far behind him, with Bakugo and Kaminari closing in fast. Seeing this, Deku starts running to the next obstacle as he hears President Mike yell out that it is a minefield. Knowing that people are catching up quick, Deku decides to just go hard and fast, stopping himself as a yellow rock-like or looking substance covers his body, looking like some sort of body armor, as he gets into a running stance. A few moments later, he blasts off and starts charging through the minefield, detonating mines every few steps, but he just doesn't care. When he gets past, he doesn't even stop to look behind him, he just keeps running. As he quickly approaches the tunnel, he feels a presence behind him, before looking to his left and locking eyes with a pair of yellow eyes coursing with lightning. Denki Kaminari. Deku sees his chance of winning slip in front of him as the lightning hero blitzes past him, winning the obstacle race, with Deku coming in a close second, Todoroki coming in third, and Bakugo scraping in fourth, royally pissing him off. After this, everyone starts pouring in, with Ibara coming in 5th, Hononuki coming in 6th, Ida 7th, etc, etc. Once everyone has arrived back at the area, the passing 40 end up competing in the next competition, in which Midnight spins the wheel once again as the hand lands on the Cavalry battle. When this is announced, Midnight then continues, with the first place getting 10 million points on their head, in which everyone starts death staring Kaminari, kind of freaking him out a little bit. Seconds later, everyone starts scurrying around looking for teammates. Kaminari kind of just standing there, not knowing what to do really. Like, he understands that no one would want to be on his team since he's got 10 million on his head. That is until he feels a hand on his shoulder. Kaminari looking back to see Deku with his hand on Kaminari's shoulder while Kirishima and Mina are standing there behind him, looking badass. After the teams have been set up and readied themselves, Midnight prepares to start the Cavalry battle. The relevant teams are as follows: Deku, Kaminari, Mina, and Kirishima, with Mina up the top, Kirishima in front, while Deku and Kaminari are on the back, the back sides. Todoroki's team is practically the same, but replacing Kaminari with Hatsume, therefore giving their team the engineering kind of side and the different machines that she has. And with Bakugo's team having Tokoyami and Uraraka instead of Mina and Kirishima. The rest of the team stay relatively the same, not relevantly, because they're the rest of the team stay relatively the same because they're irrelevant and not a big part of the story. With Midnight then starting the Cavalry battle, and everyone starts bolting towards the 10 million point headband that is on Mina's head. Unfortunately for them, they're also going after Deku's team. So, as the other teams near the group, they are pushed back by a shockwave before a giant pillar pushes Deku's team 10 meters in the air. I'm not sure what that is in feet. I'm pretty sure feet about, so that's about 30 feet in the air, maybe 40 feet in the air. Looking down on the rest of the contestants, due to some being closer than others, Deku decides to troll them a little bit, as the closest teams got their feet trapped in the crystal, halting their movement. After this, Kaminari sends a jolt of lightning down through the crystal to give the teams a little bit of a shock, enabling some of the other teams that aren't stopped in their tracks and aren't frozen to steal their headbands. not a lot does happen after this point. Some teams get eliminated, other teams get more points. That is until about 5 minutes before the end, where Mina points out something below them. Todoroki's team and Bakugo are heading straight for them. Todoroki creating ice and Bakugo flying up. Just as Bakugo goes in to take their headband, however, the team is surrounded in a dome of crystal, protecting the 10 million point headband from being stolen. Bakugo tries to get through it, exploding the crystal, but it doesn't work. So seeing that he won't be able to take the 10 mil, Bakugo decides to go for the next best thing and launches towards Todoroki's team, aiming for his headbands, but being pushed back by Todoroki's ice. Not long after this, the match is called with Team Midoriya taking the dub, Team Todoroki coming in second, Team Bakugo coming in a close third, and Team Shindo scraping in fourth. Gee whiz, I'm dyslexic. Team Shinzo scraping in fourth. After this big battle, the students are given about an hour to recharge and take a rest before the 1v1s battles begin. During this time, Todoroki grabs someone as he drags them into one of the halls. "What do you want, Todoroki?" the person questions. "Kaminari, your quirk is similar in many ways to All Might's, so..." Okay, I'm gonna cut you off right there. My quirk is electrification, okay? If I cause electricity through my body and my muscles, it enhances them drastically. No, I am not related to All Might in any way, shape, or form, but he does help me train from time to time with handling my strength, and so I don't explode from over kind of powering myself. Kaminari explains. "Okay, if that's what you say, but no matter what, I will beat you with just my ice," Shoto declares. "Truth be told, Todoroki, as much as it may hurt your pride, I truthfully do not care. There are many people that I need to look out for more than you. Midoriya and Kirishima are two large names with pretty much... Midoriya is pretty much you, but better unless you use your fire side. He uses crystal. You can break through your ice. You can't break through his crystal. And Kirishima, he's pretty much a wall. You can't get through him. And if you think you can last out there with those big names and those monsters with just half your power, you're the most delusional person here," Kaminari explains. Todoroki just scoffs at this comment as he walks away, not even acknowledging Kirishima, who walks past him. "What was that about?" he questions. The guy was explaining how he would win this competition by just half-assing it and using only his eyesight, Kaminari explains. "Well, if he doesn't pick it up, he's gonna be left behind," Kirishima explains. "You're not wrong there," Kaminari confirms, as they walk to their specific rooms to prepare themselves for the fights. During this time, Deku is sitting down just in a room as he reflects on the sports festival and how to go through these next matches and how he thinks they will go. While he's thinking this, the match roster is revealed and it's shown that it is him, Izuku Midoriya, versus a guy from the general studies called Hitoshi Shinzo. But he thinks if he's from general studies and he's gotten this far, he's got to be someone to look out for. Deku then starts walking to the arena when he is stopped by Ojiro. "Hey, Midoriya, the guy who you were up against, I think he has a mind control quirk. When he spoke to me, asking if I wanted to be on his team for the Cavalry battle, I said yes, and then my mind just went blank. I think it's got something to do with you talking to him. So, no matter what he says, do not reply. He explains, Deku giving him a firm nod before walking to the arena. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the point of the competition you have all been waiting for. The 1 versus 1 battles. Up first, we have the class representative of the first year students, Izuku Midoriya, with his Titan crystal, ice burst, crystal quirk, versus a mysterious member of the general studies class, Hitoshi Shinzo. President Mike announces, hyping up the audience. Once they both get on stage, Midnight declares, and now, the first match of the 1 versus 1 battles shall now begin! Once she says this, Shinzo starts running his mouth. So, you're in the same class as that monkey-tailed freak, right? He said something about pride, and that's why he didn't want to go through to the next round and do the 1 versus 1s. I personally think he is an idiot. I mean, just because of pride. Who cares about that? The only thing that matters is being in this competition. So, he's just a bit of an idiot, really, isn't he? When he looks over at Deku, he just sees a menace. He sees a menace. His face blackened out, and a menacing aura surrounding him. Before anyone could react, Shinzo is blasted by a wave of crystal, freezing him in place. Alright, I think that should be good. Deku declares, a cheerful kind of smile on his face and a cheerful attitude. Him grinning, kind of, while putting it. If you guys are trying to think about it, like, you know, like when the kind of, those anime characters are like, alright, as they like do the peace sign or whatever, it's kind of like that, but more epic, because it's Deku. Anyway, back into the story. Shinzo, can you move? Midnight asks. Shinzo not uttering a word, just completely in shock. Okay, and Izuku Midoriya, who's the winner? Midnight declares, the entire the entire stadium erupting in cheers and applause. Once Izuku evaporates the crystal, he walks over to Midnight. Hey, Miss Midnight, since Shinzo didn't really get a good opportunity to showcase his quirk, could he have a quick demonstration? Just to show off a little bit. I'm happy to be a test dummy, or whatever. Like, I'm fine with it. He questions, Midnight tilting her head slightly, but then giving him a nod of approval. And Izuku Midoriya has just offered to be a test dummy to showcase Hitoshi Shinzo's quirk. Midnight explains to the audience, kind of shocking everyone, especially Shinzo, who was definitely not, who really just wasn't expecting this. What? Why? He questions. Okay, Shinzo, how does this work? Do I have to, like, talk to you? Do you have to talk to me first? How? Before he could finish his sentence, Deku stops mid-speech as he just stands there, a neutral face and everything kind of just relaxed. Okay, walk out of the ring. Shinzo commands, Deku doing so. He then does a few more commands, commanding Deku to use his quirk, to do a handstand, to do a funny face. A bunch of different commands, in which Deku does. And after this, he then releases Deku. Wow, Hitoshi Shinzo, everyone, Midnight announces, everyone erupting in applause, making Shinzo tear up slightly as he looks over to Deku, who just gives him a thumbs up and a smile. And the next match will be Shoto Todoroki versus Hunter Zero. Present Mike explains. That match going the same as canon. After this, the Kaminari versus Ibara fight goes very differently. Actually, it's not quite differently, very differently. With Kaminari pretty much pushing her out of the ring like Ida did before she could react properly. The rest of the matches going on the same apart from Tetsu versus Kirishima, the Tetsu versus Kirishima fight, which goes as follows. Tetsu goes charging in, punching Kirishima in the face, hurting his hand and kind of holding his hand in pain before then getting backhanded by Kirishima across the face, knocking out Tetsu cold. Shocking everyone, especially the Class B students. After this, the quarterfinals are up, with Izuku versus Shoto being first. They then start walking up on stage as Present Mike introduces them. And first we have Izuku Midoriya, who helped his opponent in the last round. And facing him is Shoto Todoroki, who started his 1v1 matches with a bang, with using his Ice Glacier attack against Hunter Zero. After this, they both walk up on stage. Midnight announces. After they both walk up on stage, Midnight announces, the first match of the quarterfinals shall now begin! As this is announced, Deku launches a giant blast of kind of Titan Crystal towards Shoto launching ice, pretty much mimicking Deku, as they start going at it. Shoto using his ice to try and overpower Deku's crystal, but it isn't working, as Deku's crystal is a lot more maneuverable and just better in general than Shoto's ice, as it has more durability and is stronger. Shoto's ice is weaker and can crack very easily and shatter even easier. As Shoto throws an ice barrier towards Deku, Deku blocks it with his ice Titan Crystal, then sending a wave of Titan Crystal towards Shoto, sending pillars of crystal towards him, trying to hit him off the ring, but Shoto using his ice to slide away so to not be hit. Deku, thinking that he kind of does want this to be fair and not just a ice shooty contest pretty much, he starts calling out to Shoto, Todoroki! What are you doing? Come on! Go all out! The rest of us here are going all out. We're trying our absolute hardest. Why aren't you? You're only using half your power, aren't you? Where's that little heat? Come on! Come on, I want the fire, Todoroki! Hit me with it! Come on! Shoto just getting angry at him, just scowling and shouts back, just getting really mad. What? Let me guess, my father brought you up for this, huh? I guess he probably paid you or offered an internship so that you could get me to use my fire. Tell that bastard, I'm never gonna do it. I'm never gonna use his damn fireside. I'm gonna beat you with just my ice. That's just delusional, Todoroki, and you know it. My Titan Crystal is stronger. My Ice Burst is stronger than your ice. I will beat you in this contest of just constructs throwing at each other. It won't work in your favor. My quirk is stronger unless you use that other side. I mean, it could be stronger in general, but we'll never know unless you do it. Might as well do it in front of everyone, right? Go all out. Todoroki just scowling, sending a giant blast of ice towards Deku, trying to kind of trap him. Deku just quickly using his ice to wrap himself in a sort of cocoon or shell as the ice surrounds it, enveloping it. Todoroki thinking that he may have won. The rest of the crowd standing there in silence as Deku then uses the crystal as it explodes. The crystal then shooting towards Todoroki, trapping him in the crystal before then being brought back and flung towards the arena wall. Todoroki, thinking fast on his feet, uses his ice as he slides off of the ring, or not off the ring, but off of the ground as to not be out, then flinging himself back onto the ring, using his ice to then start shooting ice shards towards Deku, but it still isn't working, as Deku just uses his ice burst barriers to shield the ice, then starting to use pillars and ice burst spikes to stab towards Todoroki and try and hit him away. Shoto asks Deku, just starts yelling at him, Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to make me use my fire? It's my choice. Why don't you just let me do it? Because, Todoroki, everyone's giving their absolute hardest. Everyone's giving their absolute heart out. We're going 100% in this fight and in this competition. But you're just half-assing it. You're using your ice side, sure, but what about that other side? You're literally handicapping yourself. Sure, you may not have the best control over your fire or whatever, I don't know the circumstances, but come on, everyone's putting their heart and soul into it. You're just going half your side? That would be a massive flex if you had the capability, but you don't. You've got people like me, like Kirishima, Kaminari, even Bakugo maybe, that could possibly go against you. And, well, not possibly. We could go against you and probably win. But you can't see this, apparently. Just look at everyone. Even during the Heroes vs. Villains, we were still beating you. You didn't win that. You have to remember that. So go all out. Prove that you are the best. It doesn't matter if you're using your ice or fire. Just go all out. Put it all out. Put it all out here on the stage. And prove that you're the best. It's not your father's quirk, Todoroki. It's yours. He's not controlling it. You are. Deku starts blasting. Deku then starts blasting Todoroki with more crystal, sending him on the defensive very quickly. Shoto, knowing he's in a bit of a pickle, decides to go all out as fire erupts from the left side of his face as it blasts away the ice burst, kind of coming towards him. He then kind of comments at Deku, helping your enemy isn't a very smart idea, Midoriya, but thank you. Flash freeze heat wave as Todoroki uses his ice, sending it flying towards Deku. Deku just putting up a giant barrier before a wave of fire blasts at Deku, smashing away all of the ice and hitting his barrier, causing a massive smoke and shockwave and just smoke and steam to fill the air. Everyone is in suspense, wondering what happened. As the smoke clears, they see a dome around where Midoriya was, before it then shattering and the ice bursts flying towards Todoroki, smashing him out of bounds. Deku taking the win. After this, everyone is in everyone's in shock. as the crowd erupts in cheers. Everyone's just excited that was just the coolest fight possibly in this entire kind of sports festival. But we won't know, we're only in the quarterfinals, as the next match is Mina Ashido versus Tokiyami. As this fight, I'm not gonna lie, it goes pretty much the same as normal. Mina puts up a bigger challenge though, she doesn't kind of freak out, but Tokiyami still wins in the end. After her loss, Deku goes up to kind of Mina to try and comfort her just telling him that she did her best and that's all that matters, and Deku nodding and agreeing with that, and kind of staying with her for a little bit longer. After this, it is Ida versus Kaminari. I'm sorry, but it ain't going well for Ida. Like, that man's being put on a plate. That man's getting folded like a piece of paper. So yeah, Kaminari wins, as the final fight of the quarterfinals is Kirishima versus Bakugo. With this fight, I'm going to go into depth with it. It's a very in-depth fight, as when the match begins, Bakugo blasts towards Kirishima, trying to take him off guard. As he goes in, doing a giant explosion point blank at Kirishima's face, blasting. Bakugo, thinking that he may have actually just taken down Kirishima. That was very quick if that was the case, but his dreams are crushed very quickly as his wrist is gripped and grabbed by a hardened fist, crushing his wrist, as he's then pulled up into the air and slammed into the ground, kind of taking the wind out of him for a second, not really knowing what's happening. As Kirishima grabs him by the face and slams him into the ground, punching him multiple times until grabbing him by the collar, then throwing him out of the arena. The semi-finals are then announced, with the first fight being Izuku Midoriya versus Fugakame Tokiyami. Once the fight is announced to go, Tokiyami sends Dark Shadow at Deku, trying to knock him out before kind of anything could happen, kind of like what he did with Yorozu, trying to take him off guard. But it doesn't work, as Deku then uses his ice to trap them both in his Titan Crystal, or Ice Burst Crystal, winning the match pretty much immediately. After this, the fight is then Kirishima versus Kaminari, the final fights of the semi-finals. As they are given the go, Kaminari blasts off with his kind of strange power, attacking Kirishima, going punches, kicks, putting electricity-induced punches and kicks, trying to get through Kirishima's hardened defenses. But it's like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. But the unstoppable force is like a tennis ball, or not even a tennis ball, it's like an ice cube versus a brick wall. Nothing much is working. It's Kirishima, just after kind of Kaminari's blitzes of attacks and trying to get through the defenses, Kirishima decides to go into the offensive, as he throws punches and kicks, trying to grab and go at Kaminari, who does dodge and evade a lot of the attacks, but slowly the attacks start hitting more and more. He starts connecting more and more as he can predict Kaminari's movements, as they start trading blows, going one and after one another, with Kirishima's defenses starting to crumble and Kaminari's kind of strength and power starting to go up and up, but also his kind of endurance and his defense is starting to crumble. It's a fight for endurance as they start punching each other, just going at it until they both throw his at the same time. Kirishima, in the last ditch effort, hardens his kind of head as much as he can. It's then going harder and harder. It's then gaining a more sharp and disfigured look to it, looking like a crystal kind of thing, and rocks and shards of rocks with the black outlining or the black layer over the top of it as Kaminari hits him, and he hits Kaminari. Kaminari then hits the floor as Kirishima wins the semi-finals. The finals are then announced with Deku, it being Izuku Midoriya versus Ejiro Kirishima. The fight is then given the go as Deku blasts his Ice Burst Crystal towards Kirishima. Kirishima dodging him, trying to evade it, Deku just shooting pillars and spikes towards him. As Kirishima starts getting closer and closer, Deku trying to keep him at distance because he knows he probably can't win a hand-to-hand bout. But he can't hold it off for long enough as Kirishima finally gets in punching range. Deku, quickly thinking, surrounds himself in crystal, looking like a kind of armor, making it look like an armored kind of shell over his body. Them starting to trade punches, going to hand combat. They both are fighting kind of strong and well at first until Deku starts losing ground. To try and gain the advantage once again, Deku pushes himself off with his crystal, trying to gain distance, then throwing crystal at Kirishima, blasting the crystal, trying to slow him down. But Deku is definitely slowing down. He is getting exhausted, and he can't hold it up for much longer. This entire festival has definitely drained him, and he has to end this quickly. It's Kirishima, seeing the advantage, charges at Deku. His arms getting harder and harder as it deflects and he deflects and breaks some of the ice burst. Not well, just like breaking it off in small chips. But his arms getting harder and harder until it's going jagged like his unbreakable form with a black coat. As he charges forward like a American football player, is it AFL or NFL? NFL player. As Deku launches his crystal at Kirishima, but Kirishima just barging straight through it, smashing through the crystal and shoulder bashing Deku in the chest with his shoulder, launching Deku off the ring, giving Kirishima the win. After this, Kirishima then walks down and helps Deku up. The crowd just erupting in cheers and just excitement that was just a really cool match, as Deku congratulates Kirishima on winning their first sports festival. After about 10 minutes of them all getting patched up and kind of sorted out, they are then given the award ceremony with Deku coming second, Kirishima coming first, Kaminari and Tokiyami coming in third, equal, that kind of stuff. As after the awards ceremony, Deku is just standing in a corridor, leaning against the wall, looking at his medal, before hearing footsteps and a tap on his shoulder. Him looking to his left and seeing Mina. Hey, so yeah, I didn't win. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna be waiting a bit longer. Before he could finish the sentence, Deku is brought in to a kiss, Mina wrapping her arms around his neck, and them just sitting or standing there embracing each other for a few seconds before them then separating a few seconds later. Silly, I said depending on if you win, not if you win. And I think second place is good for you. It's so you don't get a big head. Her poking her tongue out at Deku. After the sports festival, they are given a few days of rest. Deku and Mina spending a lot of this time together, properly kind of fomenting their relationship and getting like their relationship going a bit more. As they come back to class a few days later, Aizawa kind of walks into class. Alright, so I understand that you've just had your sports festival, etc, and this is the perfect time for it. You've got your hero internships coming up. Hooray. So I'm gonna be passing out these sheets of paper. Up on the board will show how many internships you got, etc, and you can pick the internship that you can go to. If you don't have any internships, one will be given to you. As they look up at the screen, first place is Izuku Midoriya with 5,234 internship requests. Then Todoroki with 5,219 requests. Them being very close. So yeah, after this, Deku kind of looking through, and he, Kirishima, Mina, and Kaminari kind of looking through, deciding on what kind of hero internships they're gonna go to. A week passes as everyone kind of decides their internships as they go to their hero internships. I've said a lot of internships in the past few seconds, or few minutes. A lot of internships. As they kind of go, Deku getting on the train with him standing beside someone else. Shoto Todoroki, as they kind of get off at the station, walking a few kilometers before then arriving to the Endeavor agency. As they walk up, they go in and Deku meets the main man himself, the number 2 hero, Endeavor. As Endeavor tells Deku, he's pretty blunt, as he just stands there menacingly looking down at Deku. Look, I'm gonna be blunt about this, boy. You're here to help train my Shoto. That is it. If you think I was gonna be asking you here to train you and make you a better hero, you're probably mistaken. I only have eyes for my son. So he will be the only one that is properly trained. If you get trained and get stronger from it, that is good for you. I do not care. Well, Mr. Endeavor, sir, let me be very blunt with you. I don't care. Like, if you're that focused on letting your son, who obviously does not like you, like, it is unbelievably obvious. Like, you seem to just be a bad man. Like, it's just not good. It's not good that your own son hates you this much. But I've never met my dad, so I wouldn't know what a good fatherly figure looks like. But I would guess that they wouldn't be abusing them or making them kind of train every single day for hours at the age of 4 years old. I wouldn't really be expecting that. And to be putting all the stress on a 15-year-old kid to become the greatest hero of all time and to beat the number 1 hero, who is literally a deity in 90% of Japan's and probably around the world's eyes. Like, this man is a savior, and you're putting all the stress on your son to surpass him. Like, do it yourself, man. Come on, what are you doing? Anyway, that's enough of me babbling. Like, instead of like trying to surpass him, just be the best hero you can be. Who cares about the stupid competition? Who comes first? Who comes second? It doesn't matter. I came second in the sports festival. Does it look like I care? I really don't care. Like, me and my friend won, so that's fine. If Todoroki beat me, I would have been fine with that as well. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, as long as you become the best version of yourself. And just be better. Be a nice person, etc, etc. Anyway, that's my rant over, so sorry if I spat mad disrespect to you or whatever. I was trying not to. I was just putting out my opinion. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me, so yeah. Endeavor kind of shrugging this off, being quite shocked at this kid's tenacity, that he just babbled on at him. But he shrugs it off nonetheless. It's still maybe circulating in his mind that this kid could be right, but we'll never know. After this, Deku and Shoto train for the next few days, getting to know each other more and more, becoming quite good friends in the process. As a few days pass, they are taken with Endeavor and a couple of their sidekicks like Burnin, etc, etc, to Hosu City, where the absolute height of crime and villainy is pretty much the Gotham of the My Hero universe. As they're taken there until they kind of rock up there on train, and a Nomu bashes through the side of the train. Them immediately bashing into action, taking down the Nomu as they see the giant attack. Deku going in and freezing one of them immediately in place, stopping it from moving. Then kind of shooting spikes into its brain, killing the kind of monster. Them doing this for a few minutes longer, attacking more and more Nomu, until Deku starts running around feeling a buzz in his pocket, pulling out his phone and seeing a text from Kaminari. Deku, seeing this text, then rushes towards Shoto, grabbing him and telling Endeavor to, after they've sorted this out, to follow them. They then arrive a few seconds later to an alleyway to see the hero killer Stain, with a sword above their classmate Tenya Ida's head, about to stab down into kind of his head. With Kaminari on the ground, seemingly frozen, like he's unable to move, and another hero in the corner bleeding out. Thinking fast, Deku immediately blasts a wave of ice burst towards the hero killer, kind of stopping the guy from stabbing his classmate, as he then freezes around him. Todoroki blasting Stain with fire and ice, trying to stop him, with Deku then taking the advantage of Todoroki stopping or holding Stain off to use his crystal to go around to the three injured people and dragging them behind him, then using Ice Burst to kind of freeze the alleyway and stop Stain from getting the others. Shoto then kind of starts attacking Stain using his fire and ice. Stain shooting around trying to get an opening before then seeing this blue kind of crystal around the walls, before then getting stabbed in the feet as he tried to jump off. Knowing that he's in a bit of a shambles, he decides to go for the bigger target, who he understands is Deku, as he prepares to jump down and launch towards Deku. But as he stands on the ground, his foot is frozen over by ice as it creeps up his foot and up his calf before he is then surrounded in this blue crystal. Him not being able to break out, him trying everything using his blades, trying to stab out, etc., but it isn't working until he sees a glimmer in the crystal, then getting stabbed all over, all his joints being stabbed into, forcing him to stop all movement, as he literally can't move. Like, if he moves, he is going to be in incredible pain. A few minutes later, Endeavor then arrives as Deku kind of brings down the ice burst after he trapped the hero killer, as they then take Stain away. Stain kind of falling unconscious due to blood loss, as the rest of the students, Todoroki and Deku, and the rest of them taken to the hospital to check out any injuries or anything to make sure they're alright. Half an hour or so pass as they are at the hospital. Todoroki and Deku standing in the kind of hospital room with Kirishima, having a few cuts and scratches over him, but not too bad, and Ida also having cuts all over him. Not as bad as the original, however. As they are then interrupted by a large dog man walking into the room. Him then walking in, explaining the situation, that they really weren't allowed to use their quirks. So that's a bit of a problem. Like, they can't use their quirks, so they really should be getting arrested, but instead they're giving the credit to Endeavor that he defeated the hero killer, since there are burn marks over him, so it could be believable. After this, he then thanks the students for what they did, and thanked them for defeating the hero killer. A few days later, everyone is then in class as Aizawa walks in once again. I know you've just come back from your hero internships, etc. Some being more eventful than others. Him looking at Deku and Shoto, Kirishima, and Ida. But your final exams are coming up, and you need to prepare. Hearing that that the final exams are coming up, everyone starts to kind of fret and freak out that they aren't smart enough and they will not pass, when Yakuza suggests the idea that they can go study with her. So a lot of them take up that opportunity. During this time, Deku, being the smart little boy that he is, does study, but he also trains a lot, as he knows that the practical won't be the same. He knows that since they've had villain attacks, it will probably be a bit different, so he trains his absolute heart out. As he also helps Mina, Kirishima, and Kaminari when needed with their training and studying as well. Them also going with Yakuza, since she's the smartest in the class. But a few weeks pass as the day of the final exams arrive. As over this kind of the written portion, Deku does alright. Like, he's not a dumb kid, so he does very well in the written portion. As after the written portion is finished, they are then taken to a mock city, where they see all the teachers, and it is explained that they will not be fighting robots, they will be fighting the teachers. So all the fights pretty much go the same, with all the fights, everyone fighting the same teachers, apart from Zero. He fights with somebody else, and he actually passes this time. So yeah, that pretty much happens. And it is revealed that Deku and Bakugo will be fighting All Might. So that's nice. But the rest of the fights do go the same, as I did state. With Mina and Kaminari's fight, they do actually pass, with Kaminari having one for all. Not that anybody knows it's one for all, they just think that he's a speedy boy. But they do eventually find the exit. with during Kirishima and Sato, I think his name. Yeah, Sato. Yes. Yeah, Sato, Kirishima and Sato's fight. Kirishima is able to beat Cemento since he is massive. Have you seen that man? But yeah, so he is able to defeat Cementos. And yeah, so after this, Bakugo and Izuku Midoriya's fight then arrives, with Izuku thinking like, hey, or suggesting, hey, like, Bakugo, I know that we don't like each other, we've got a bad history, but you gotta understand, bro, we got to work together as to defeat All Might. He's the #1 hero for a reason. Shut up, damn Deku. I'm not gonna work with you. I'm gonna beat him with my own power. Not with your useless quirk. As they're arguing, the exam then starts with a massive shockwave or airwave blasting into them. Deku being able to force up a crystal barrier in front of them, blocking the attack and shielding both him and Bakugo. After Deku puts down the crystal wall, Bakugo immediately blasts off, with All Might appearing in front of him and punching him square in the face, slamming him into a building, putting him out of the fight. After this, All Might then charges after Deku, with Deku evading and dodges with his crystal quirk, using his crystals to slide past and dodge and block with his crystals, sometimes landing a couple of hits with some pillars or some spikes trying to hit him, but All Might is too strong. He is the #1 hero for a reason. With Deku Deku trying to hit and evade and trying to just wear out All Might, but from where it seems that he's going to be worn out before All Might is. But as everything does start to seem kind of dim, they then hear explosions kind of from a building beside them, as the bottom floor of the building explodes, with Bakugo rushing out of it. As he blasts out, he then causes a large explosion in All Might's face, pulling the pin in his gauntlet as it lets off a giant explosion into All Might's face, stunning him briefly. But that is all that Izuku needs, as he shoots crystal at both his hands, then his legs, and then freezing his entire body. Deku then going up and putting the cuffs on All Might's hands, winning the final exam's practical fight. After everyone kind of finishes their fights, they are then sent home, where after the next day they come back in and Aizawa declares no one's actually going to be going, like, everyone's going to be going to the training camp since nobody failed. So that's very fun, and he does explain even if they didn't pass, they would have still gone, they'll just have to do extra classes. But since not everybody passed, none of that's needed, so that's fine. Bakugo was almost there, but he still helped. If he stayed in that building, he wouldn't have passed, but luckily he let off that explosion, therefore giving them the win. After this is all explained, they are then given a couple days before they get on the bus and go to the forest training camp. During that time, they did also go to the mall, but since, well, Shigaraki doesn't really want to die, he doesn't go and threaten them, because he realized that kid just blew the Nomu's head off with one swing. That man would end his career in a second. But that's that. So everything goes smoothly as they get on the bus and go to the training camp. While they're driving, Mina is sitting next to him as Deku and Mina are both kind of cuddling up to each other. Everybody knows that they are kind of together and they are dating at this point. It's pretty obvious. So they kind of just chill out as everyone is talking. After a few hours, the bus stops at this little lookout site as they can look over the forest. After everybody gets off the bus, they are then greeted by the wild pussycats, with everyone feeling it's a bit weird, like why are they greeting us here and not at the forest training camp? But then they realise this is the forest training camp, but it's too late, with Pixie Bob slamming her hands on the ground and the mountain moving and wobbling and moving around like jelly, then flinging them off of the building or off of the cliff as they fall into the forest below. As they are falling down, Deku uses his crystal to make a slide down as to not hurt everybody, and so they don't get hurt when they hit the ground. So they all slide down safely and happily, not hurting themselves. After they all look up, they see that look up at the cliff, they all see that everybody's leaving, and they should probably go, with Aizawa explaining that they need to be back in a few hours or they're not getting dinner. Which definitely motivates them, with them then seeing that this won't be as easy as they originally thought, with giant monsters, or mud monsters, attacking them. When this all occurs, Deku, thinking quickly, uses his quirk, slamming his hands on the ground as crystals, or his Ice Burst crystal, blasts all across the forest, freezing all of the trees, all the mud monsters, everything for hundreds of meters, freezing everything and giving them a good head start as so they can get there quicker. Pixie Bob thinking that this is quite impressive. After they all kind of get through, they then are greeted by more monsters, but Deku is not able to use that move again. He's already pretty exhausted from using that. That was the limit of his quirk. He couldn't do any more. And all he could really do was fight off monsters sending pillars, but at that point he was already still very tired. When they all arrive, Deku then sees a kid just standing there in the corner being kinda mad. With Deku, he goes up and says g'day to the kid. He goes down on one knee and he's like, hey man, how's it going? With the kid just reeling back his fist and punching Deku in the nads. But as this happens, the boy pulls back his hand in pain, rubbing it, and tears starting to swell up in his eyes before he runs away. If you're wondering, Deku literally titanized his pants as to not get hurt in the nads, as he saw the kid's punch coming from a mile away. After this, Mandalay apologizes for Koda's actions before they are all given a little bit of a break. They are given food, a bath, etc, as they all go back and have a good sleep, for they're going to need it for the next day. Over the next few days, Deku has been given the task to use his quirk to use pretty much what he did during the kind of way there, trying to expand his crystal length as far as possible constantly, as he has to keep increasing the length and the radius of his crystals as it just goes further and further out, this exhausting him, as he's given maybe 30 minutes to send it as far as he can, given a 10-minute break before he does it again. As this happens for over multiple days, Deku also using his quirk to build giant pillars shooting into the sky before releasing all the crystal and stopping it before doing it again. He also does this when he puts his hand on the ground, causes the radius blast. When he's finished, he then evaporates and disfigures the crystal as to have another chance in the same spot, with the mark that he got up to being marked with a
Your call cannot be completed
kind
as
of
dialed.
vivid or a sharpie or something, or a certain mark as to see how far he got. After a few kind of days or nights later, they are then told that they are going to be doing the test of courage. With Deku, he goes with Mina. When they go through, they're scared by multiple, or Mina's scared by multiple other people jumping out and scaring them. Deku doesn't really flinch. He does jump a little bit, as he wasn't expecting a couple of them, but he still doesn't really. He doesn't get scared. He's very chillaxed during this entire thing, with Mina just holding onto his arm the entire time, shivering like mad. As they're going through, they are then scared by Kendo and Tetsu. After this, they then smell smoke, as all four of them are wondering what is going on. They smell smoke, and then they look further into the forest, seeing a blue glow. As this happens, they then see this certain kind of purpley greeny gas, as before anyone could really react, Deku puts his hand, or doesn't even put his hand on the ground. He just crystallizes everything for miles, blasting crystal everywhere, freezing all the villains, trees, even all the heroes and heroes in training, everybody that is in I wouldn't even, a 5-kilometer radius, I'd say. Everyone in that radius being frozen. After realizing who the heroes are and who the villains are, Deku releases the heroes. Deku didn't freeze the three that were with him, since he knew that they weren't villains. But yeah, so he could sense who the heroes were and who the villains were as he released the heroes. After kind of this, he then sees something on the mountain. He hears a certain scream or something. He hears something on the mountain, or beside them, as Deku then, without anybody even being able to say another word, he blasts up, shooting up with a pillar of his Titan crystal. As he's flying through the air, he sees a gigantic hulking figure standing there, holding on to Koda by his neck, strangling the poor kid, as Deku uses his crystal as fast as he can, shooting it from his feet as it shoots down into the ground and freezing, or crystallizing and freezing, the villain's arms and legs. The villain we know as Muscular then dropping Koda as he runs away before Deku, without the villain even really knowing what hit him, forming the giant Warhammer, swinging it back as it hits the villain square in the back, him not even being able to muscular, the villain not even being able to form any muscles or muscle fibers on his back, as he didn't even know what was happening, before he is slammed square in the back straight into the cliff face behind them, knocking the villain out. After the villain is sent into the cliff, Deku thinks quickly as he freezes the villain into the cliff, stopping him from moving. All the villains after this are captured, with Deku being told to let a couple of them escape so that they can find the villain base later, as they will be led to the villain base very soon, or they're not really released, as more they are led to believe that they escaped. As this happens, they are kind of trackers are put on them, also known as Deku's Titan Crystal, as he could probably sense where they were, and he could be more of a GPS to where to find them. A few hours later, while everybody is kind of chilling out, no one's actually injured. Absolutely no one is injured, with the situation being resolved before anyone could really react. As while everybody is kind of chilling out and kind of chilling out and realizing and trying to get over what just happened, and they just had another villain attack, but was stopped by Izuku once again. Deku is thanked for taking out all the villains, as one of the heroes, kind of the hero commission people in charge of taking out the League of Villains, then approaches him. Young man, Izuku Midoriya, I do believe you've been called. Oh, your name is. Yes sir, that's me, sir. Is there anything I can do for you? Yes, Mr. Midoriya. It was probably explained to you earlier that you were asked to release a few of the villains as so we could find their base. Yes, sir, that I was informed of that. Is there any reason why you need me? Do you need me to write down where they are? I'm not sure if I could do that. I just have, it's more of a BP monitor. I just know kind of if they're close or not, but that's pretty much it. Yes, Mr. Midoriya, that's exactly why. We need you to come to the villain raid. As far as we know and as far as we've been informed, your quirk is very useful. Is it true that it is possibly the most unbreakable substance on the planet? That is, as far as I know, sir. Yeah, I don't really know. As far as I know, sir, that is the case. Well, then, we do need your help, Mr. Midoriya. Would you be willing to help us take down the League of Villains? Yes, sir, I would be happy to. Just, what do I need to do? Alright. We are now at the League of Villains hideout, with Shigaraki literally losing his marbles, as he's freaking out, asking the remainders, which there's only 3 of them, that being Mr. Compress, Darby, and Twice. The rest of them being captured very easily. Lord Shigaraki freaking out, asking them why didn't they take down that kid. They were specifically asked to take down that crystal boy, the one that took down the Nomu. The guy saying, "We're sorry, the guy took us all out immediately, only we were able to break out because of us using our quirks." Shigaraki freaking out still until they see something glimmer in the side of the room, in this little corner, before it explodes, with blue crystal forming everywhere in the room, freezing everyone from head to toe. Only their heads being able to show, or I should say shoulders to toe, so that they are able to breathe. All Might then busting in with him saying his trademark kind of catchphrase, I am here. Yeah, I really didn't need to say that, but we gotta have an I am here in every part. Yeah. So then after this, the villains are kind of freaking out. Shigaraki having a conniption fit as he's like, "Oh mate, I hate you. I hate you." Before black sludge then starts oozing out of all of their mouths, them then being portaled away. All Might freaking out and getting mad at himself, but knowing exactly where they are. A few blocks down is all the villains, Shigaraki, Mr. Compress, Darby, and Twice are portaled and kind of appear in this certain area, with multiple heroes all around the area, all hurt and kind of damaged and taken down, with everybody else kind of freaking out, not knowing what to do. After this, they then see something flying through the sky before a smash. That was a horrible All Might impression. But it's a smash before they hear a smash and a giant gust of wind blasting them as All For One appears, blocking the blow and holding All Might in place, holding his fist, mocking him, saying that he is weak. He's weaker since the last time they have fought. All Might, not taking any of it, starts barraging and putting the hands on All For One. But All For One being able to handle him pretty easily. The rest of the villains not really knowing what to do. Kurogiri's been taken out. The others are all not really knowing what to do. As while they're kind of freaking out, trying to get Kurogiri to wake up, they then see some blue flicker in front of them once again, before they are frozen head to toe. Head to toe this time, so they cannot move. All For One being done the same. He's been done dirty as he has been frozen head to toe, unable to move, surrounded in meters of crystal as to not able him to move. Spikes being shot through the crystal, stabbing into All For One to make him not be able to move and not resist. As everything is kind of taken, everything sorted out, everyone's done, sorted and thanked. After this, Deku is thanked for what he had done, for helping out and even taking down the League of Villains. All he was really asked to do was just take them down the first time, but he went above and beyond and didn't just take down the League of Villains, but their leader and possibly the most dangerous villain of all time, All For One. As to thank them and to show their gratitude, he is given a provisional hero license. After he's given his provisional hero license and everything kind of wraps up, Deku does head back home, waiting for the next day of school. Over this time, All Might does retire because he's got a successor and he sees that the future is in good hands, so yeah, he does retire. After a few days to give the students time to process the near-death experience that they had again, Deku hangs out with Mina and Kirishima again until they come back to school. We wouldn't normally do this, however. Since you all have experienced multiple villain attacks, we have decided to let you first years go for your provisional hero license. Midoriya has already got his due to his participation and my major contribution in the defeat of the League of Villains. This will be in the next coming week, so you need to prepare. Over these next few days, you will be working on your special hero moves. Everyone gets excited at the prospect that they'll finally be able to use their quirks freely in public. Them getting ready and training for this upcoming hurdle for them to overcome and become greater heroes. After a few days, Deku has come up with multiple different special moves. The new and improved Wrathful Judgment, where multiple long shards and spikes of differing sizes form around him, shooting at high speeds towards the selected target. Wrathful Hammer, a giant warhammer that can break through pretty much everything, having a 100% mortality rate if impact is made. Glass Sheet, blasting an instant sheet of ice burst across the ground and pretty much everywhere in a radius and diameter of a radius of around 5 to 10 kilometers or 3.1 to 6.2 miles approximately. trapping everyone there in an unbreakable cocoon. And diamond armor, where he covers himself in a crystal armor, limiting his maneuverability but drastically increasing his defense. If you've seen Attack on Titan, he's kind of like... Yeah, like, I assume you've seen Attack on Titan if you're watching this. So yeah, pretty much, he's literally a blue or white armored titan. So instead of the yellow, it's blue or white. So, yeah. Kirishima does also make a few new hero moves of his own as well. With him having the red Riot Unbreakable, which we already know of, but it's less of a special move now, since it's been shadowed by multiple other better moves. So, yeah. Obsidian Shield, which is where he covers himself in a state harder than unbreakable, with his skin turning like a carbon black, but shiny black color, but having less of a rocky surface. Kind of like his normal hardening, maybe even less. Next one being Nokia Guard. It speaks for itself. Like, this thing is literally unbreakable. Like, his other one's called Unbreakable. Bro, this thing will never break. This thing could survive the planet exploding. Yeah, so it does speak for itself. His body turning into, like, rock hard, like his Unbreakable. Looking like his Unbreakable, but with black skin, with a red tint to it. As he has reached the absolute limit of unbreakableness. The rest of his moves being the same, with red gauntlet and red counter, all of his punchy moves being the same. After a few weeks, the students finally get to the Provisional Hero Licensing exam, where they're greeted by multiple strange figures from different schools, like Shuketsu High and Shukabuchi Academy. I completely butchered that. But yeah, like the other schools with like Yoshindo and all those guys. Skipping it over it briefly, since Deku passed and got his hero license like already, everything goes the same, except replacing Deku with Kaminari, and Kirishima ends Seiji's career with Bakugo. Bakugo and Todoroki still fail due to the same reasons as canon, but yeah, they'll still be going to the remedial courses. After a few days, the class are told about the hero work studies, until the day arrives that the big three introduce themselves, leading Mirio to picking a fight with everyone. Once they get to Gym Gamma, they start to question him, but he tells them he's totes real, like, he's for totes real, he totally wants to fight them all. Todoroki's still not participating, since he didn't feel like he didn't pass the other exam, so he decided not to do it. As Mirio soon tells them to go, Bakugo blasts in, not going to take Mirio down immediately, but his explosion just going through him, before getting a solid punch straight to the gut, flooring Bakugo immediately. He then takes down the rest of the students with relative ease, until it's just Izuku, Kirishima, and Kaminari left. Mirio goes in to punch Deku, only for his fist to hit Deku's crystallized helmet. Deku then activating diamond armor. Mirio then goes for the next best thing, Kaminari. Since Kirishima has already activated Obsidian Shield, he goes to attack Kaminari. He dodged before. Kaminari dodges before he's attacked, but he is then kicked in the stomach, knocking him down. Afterwards, Deku goes in to blast him with a wave of crystal. However, Mirio just phases through it. As he's preparing for another hit, Mirio pops up in front of Kirishima before punching him square in the gut. but it does nearly nothing. Kirishima's hardening is too strong. Before Mario could really react, a pillar shoots up from beneath him, forcing him back as he permeates through the floor once again. He then tries to make Deku and Kirishima hit each other, but their teamwork is too in sync and it just doesn't work. It eventually comes to the point where Mario just stops the match. Wow, you two are very good. If we kept going, I think that fight would have gone on forever. Rubbing the back of his head. He then explains how work studies are very beneficial and how if they ever got the opportunity to go to one, that the class should definitely take it. After this, a few days pass as the class goes on as usual until Izuku and Kaminari are asked to the teacher's lounge, where All Might and Mario explain how they should go to Sir Night's agency for a work study. The two agree that they will go and check it out, as the next day, Mario takes Deku and Kaminari to Night's agency. Kirishima would have taken it, but Fat Cum had already requested a work study for him, which he gladly accepted. When the three students enter the room, they see Night Eye there with one of his sidekicks, Bubble Girl, strapped to some sort of tickle torture device. Once he sees the trio walk in, he stops and releases the sidekick as she and Mario walk out on command, leaving the three of them in the room. So, you're Izuku Midoriya, the one who helped All Might at Kamino. Pass me the sheets, I'll sign yours. But, Kaminari, was it? You'll have to prove to me why you should be here. Him signing Izuku's papers, Deku leaving the room immediately after, leaving Kaminari there with Sir Night-Eye. 5 minutes pass as Kaminari and Night-Eye walk out. They're both in. Meet here tomorrow. Your work study starts then. A few days pass as they get settled into the agency, as they set out on their first patrol a few days later. But not before being told about their objective, and how if they run into him, do not engage. Once they set out on their patrol, they all make small talk, etc, etc. That is until something bumps into Deku's leg. Him looking down to see a little girl on the ground. Hey, are you okay? Deku says, crouching down, the others looking at her in confusion. You didn't hurt yourself, did you? Deku looking down at her as she grabs onto his clothes, not letting go. What's wrong? Him looking down at her bandaged limbs. Before he could question anything else further, Izuku is cut off by someone walking down the alleyway.
I'm very sorry about my daughter, heroes. She can be very clumsy sometimes. Come on, Eri. You should let the heroes continue on their work.
As Izuku is about to stand up, he feels the girl tug on his pants. Please, don't go. Him kneeling back down. I'm sorry, sir, but why's your daughter got bandages on both her arms and legs? It surely can't just be from playing around and hurting yourself.
You see, heroes, she has a special tendency to get herself into trouble, which ends up getting her hurt. Now come on, Eri, it's time to go.
The man's starting to slide his glove off. The girl, known as Eri, then starts running back to the man.
See? That wasn't too hard now, was it? Thank you, heroes.
The man waving back at them before walking back at the alley. Kaminari prepares to go after him before a crystal pillar blocks his way. What? What are you doing, Midoriya? He was about to get violent. What are you talking about? He's right, Kaminari. She started running back voluntarily, like she was scared something was gonna happen. Lemillion, we should take this back to Night Eye. And don't worry, I've got a tracker on her. I know exactly where she is at all times. They then make their way back to Sir Night Eye, explaining the situation in which he understands. While this is all happening, Kirishima ended the bladed villain's whole career immediately. Like, the man didn't even stand a chance. A few days later, they are all in a meeting where Deku, Kaminari, Kirishima, Ochako, Su, and Mirio are sitting with the heroes as they explain the plan on how they'll raid the Shihei Hizakai base. Rocklock doesn't talk that much and diss the hero students that much, since Deku has proved he's stronger than most pros. Like, man's took down the most powerful villain with relative ease. Finally, the day finally arrives, with all the heroes and police setting up outside the Yakuza mansion. One of the officers then reads out their warrant before a huge man busts out the gate, like crushing a bunch of the cops and a couple of the lower grade heroes. Before he could cause any more damage, however, the man is frozen over immediately by Deku's ice burst, stopping him in his tracks. They then start running through the building, with Night Eye asking Midoriya, how far away are they? Well, from what I'm sensing, they're about 4 stories below us and a few hundred meters in front. I'd say we go down about 2 more stories before I can get her out of there safely. The heroes nod at Deku's explanation until they're interrupted by the room moving and shifting and warping, forcing Kirishima and Fat Gum into another room. The rest of them keep moving forward, the Deku glassing over the entire room, with the villain, known as Mimic, then moves into the ice burst, which Deku wanted, as he pulls the villain into view with his ice burst manipulation before Aizawa erases their quirk, as they then capture the villain. They then make it further down into the lab until Deku stops. The heroes are a bit confused until he kneels down and slams his hand on the ground. Glass sheet! The building then getting completely enveloped in crystal before a hole tears up in the floor. Down with Shizuki, he hears a loud explosion before Eri is enveloped in a crystal-like substance, confusing all of them until he sees a crystal tendril shoot down through the roof, pulling Eri up through the building at insane speeds. Before he could react, everyone and everything around them is frozen over. His goons, Chronostasis, the truth guy, everyone is completely frozen over. Due to his quirk, Overhaul is able to escape, pretty much atomizing the crystal and blasting the crystal away, ready to chase after Eri. That is until he's punched square in the face by Mirio, and with Kaminari then coming in close behind him, starting to lay down the hands on this man. They just put their hands on him, eh? They bully him. I'm not gonna go much into it because it's not really a fight. If you want a kind of idea, it's kind of like what the Mirio versus Overhaul fight, except a lot easier and a more kind of maintained space, since he doesn't have enough time to slam his hands on the ground and destroy the entire building. So anytime he tries and uses his quirk, he's either hit by Mirio or Kaminari, with the Yakuza leader being defeated very quickly. After this, everything is sorted out, very anticlimactically, with, after this, Nightai then gets a call in for Deku, asking if they could bring him to the mountains. Gran Torino and a couple other heroes asking this, where they are fighting Gigantomachia. With how strong this guy is, you would expect there to be a challenge, but no, not really. As soon as Deku arrives, he immediately freezes over the villain's legs. The villain trying to take him down, or trying to rip himself out, but it's no use, as he can't pull himself out. As this happens, they then hear a loud shout. Wrathful judgment! As multiple long and gigantic shards and spikes of ice burst form around Deku, launching at insane speeds at Gigantomachia, piercing through his armor and stabbing into him, before he then screams one more time, Wrathful Hammer! As a gigantic hammer forms like in his hands, him bringing it up and slamming it down onto Gigantomachia's head. Not killing him, but that man's out. He's out for a while. As Izuku then freezes the villain completely over, making it completely unable for him to move. It does take time for him to freeze over this villain, as he is quite a mass, but with a bit of effort he is able to achieve this. After this, they have the school festival, with Gentle Criminal not even trying to attack UA. With 3 monstrosities in their first year class, and Mirio Togata, a bunch of heroes, All Might still being there, even though All Might's retired, but a bunch of heroes being there, he's not even going to try it. So the school festival goes nice and smoothly, with Deku helping out with the thingy. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, helping out with the special effects. After this, they have the joint training arc. Yeah, it's a sweep, not gonna lie. One of these days, I might actually talk about the training arc. One of these days. I don't know, in a couple what ifs, maybe. I probably will, but not now. Not this part, it's a sweep. They get destroyed. Their lives are ending. No. We then have a time skip of around 3 months. The entire Class 1A are fighting the Meta Liberation Army, which is a lot weaker this time, since they don't have the League of Villains and the entire Paranormal Liberation Front. So the heroes are able to take them down with relative ease, as all the villains are taken down, with Redestro, Curious, Trumpet, Skeptic, Slide and Go, him being taken down, and Gessen, all of them being taken down with a relative amount of ease. They're still extremely strong, so it's not a slide, or not a wipe, but it is still a lot easier than if good old Shiggy was there with All for One wiping the floor with an entire city. As they're celebrating their win, Deku then looks to Mina, who smiles at him with a wide grin. But this is cut short by a fist puncturing straight through her abdomen. Izuku just looking in horror as he sees what he thinks is like the love of his life, his girlfriend's limp body getting raised in the air before being thrown away, slamming into the ground, her laying there dead. What Izuku sees terrifies him. He sees a strange blue portal closing with a man, a tall man with dark grey skin and red markings all over his body, standing there with blood covering his arms and across his face. The man just stands there with a grin on his face.
So, you're the Midori of this world. Prepare to join my collection.
As the man lunges towards Deku with blinding speeds, only for a punch directed towards him collides with a different target. Nokia guard! Izuku looks in front of him to see Kirishima there, protecting him, only for a red beam to shoot straight through Kirishima's chest and hitting Izuku across the side, killing Kirishima instantly as Izuku falls to his knees, kneeling there, grasping his side in pain and just kneeling there in shock. Tears welling up in his eyes as he looks up at the man, giving the monster in front of him a stern look filled with rage, grief, and determination, with a little bit of fear along in there as well. As they stare each other down, the man is blasted by a wave of ice before being electrocuted. Kaminari then hits the villain with a 45% smash, being followed up by a blast of fire, forcing him back a little, but not enough. As Kaminari goes in for another hit, he's stabbed by multiple grey tendrils all over his body. Before anyone could really react, Kaminari is then ripped apart into multiple different pieces by the tendrils.
I only want Midoriya. The rest of you can be on your way.
The villain letting off a devilish grin. Everyone stands there in utter despair, shock and fear, completely unsure and just frozen in fear and unsure of what to do. Endeavor, Aizawa and multiple other heroes then jump into the fight.
We won't let that happen,
they scream, as Aizawa cancels the villain's quirk with Endeavor blasting him with fire. Whilst the fire kind of lingers around and starts to disperse, a hand reaches out to Endeavor, punching straight through his skull, his body then being launched towards Aizawa, forcing him to blink. And before he could react, the villain has Aizawa by his throat, holding him up in the air, then snapping his neck. Todoroki just stands there with Bakugo beside him.
Get out of here, Midoriya.
What?
He wants you. We can't have that. You have to run. Aizawa's right, Deku. I hate your guts, but you're extremely strong. And we can't afford to lose you.
Before he can respond, the two blast off towards the villain. Izuku just looking up in shock, unable to move due to his injury. As he's watching, he hears something behind him. Looking back to see a person walk through another portal? What? As Deku not knowing what's going on, the man reaches out his hand. Deku looking up to see that the man is him. He looks back to the battle to see Todoroki get blasted by a giant mouth beam, killing him, as Bakugo gets sliced in half soon after by one of the villain's tendrils, him dying as well. Izuku just kneels there with tears flooding his eyes before he's grabbed by a lot larger hand, pulling him into the portal. The villain seeing this, the villain launches towards Deku, trying to reach him.
No!
And that is the end of What If Deku Had a Titan Crystallization Quirk. It's the end of the movie. Hope you guys did really enjoy this. If you did, once again, be sure to like, subscribe, all of that jazz. Thanks to everyone who helped me out through this. Crown Friend, Golden What Ifs, I think he helped me out through a little bit of this. If he didn't, I'm just going to be shouting him out because he's a cool guy. And Saint and everyone, music, everything down in the description for, yeah, all the links and everything down in the description. And yes, that's pretty much that. If you guys did really enjoy this part, and if you watched through the entire part, thank you so much. Thank you for watching through this entire video. It is unbelievable how kind of grateful I am that you guys have actually like gotten me to this point where I'm happy making videos, because at the moment I think I'm nearly at 2,000 subs, so I'm really thankful for that. So thank you to all of you who have subscribed, are watching this video, and have seen through all of it. So I am, from the bottom of my heart, I am very grateful for that. I personally don't think my kind of series are that different from anyone else's. I don't think I stand out that much, but I don't know, apparently I do. So that's that. Anyway, I hope you guys do enjoy this part. And yeah, just remember notification tab, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Can't remember if I said that already. But yeah, everything down notification tab, and comment down below if you want to. But yeah, that's pretty much that. So just remember, God is awesome, you guys are too, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.